It's time once again for the money match here on the night shift. Shift 46, ZP here with Jake and Dan, and gentlemen, Melee Creeps is going to be a slightly different look for them with Do out and League in, but still a tough challenge for FPS Lounge nonetheless. Hello?
I'm locked in, Dan. You got to go first. I'm staring.
Last time you went first.
I'm like, if people can hear me, right? It's like, we will be quiet. Okay, Jake, you first. I'm sending to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a spicy one. I feel like FPS Lounge are probably primed to be the favorites this week with a fearsome performance here in the Challenger match, although you don't want to, look too deeply into that considering it's, a newer team that you haven't seen as much from, but still a great showing from them. And for Melee Creeps to be on, some roster swaps, like maybe not ideal for their performance in this week. So maybe credit to FPS Lounge. The two of these two teams, I feel like they are basically coin flip in terms of their skill match right now. It's really hard to call who's leading the pack.
Dan, quick hit on the matchup before we talk about the history.
I mean, you got to imagine that FPS Lounge have the edge with not having a sub, and they are extremely formidable. So I'm definitely going to predict that they would outperform. League's very good though, and he's no stranger to like this specific level of play. So you never know.
All right, but of course, those tuning in wondering, hey, how many of the times have these teams been here? Well, we got you covered. The full NA history, or at least the history in very recent times. No, it goes all the way back to number one. We've fixed the graphic. We've just expanded things out here, Jake. No cutoffs for us as we're on the road to 52.
Yeah, and I mean, even a lot of the players on the current FPS Lounge were part of Floorman at times, but Melee Creeps, you can see, I mean, although the logo change come in, more recently, I think a little much more sleek and iconic look. That cat in the suit ran the table for quite some weeks here on the night shift. So, a monster run of dominance for Melee Creeps. I think always something that we'll be trying to vie to return to, but a task that'll be difficult to repeat considering how competitive the top of NA has been as of late.
Well, Dan, as Jake mentions, we have this big streak from Melee Creeps and, the streak from Hydra Nation at the very beginning, but you look at recent times and, while Floorman ripped off a pretty decent streak, things have been pretty back and forth in recent memory.
Yeah, I definitely think the FPS Lounge merger that happened to formulate this roster, the version of the roster that we see now, has made the team a lot stronger in it. And it makes sense, the previous iteration did have Demorph in it, so I think that was never going to last for too long, playing all the way from Europe. But now we do get two teams that are very good going head-to-head. And I think with the meta where it has been, even though we haven't had a huge amount of changes, I guess, to be honest, we've had a lot of changes pretty much all the time. It has made the game really interesting because there's so many edges that teams can gain over each other, and so much of the I think beauty of this matchup is that both teams very good in all the categories, individually, team-wise, and the drafts are where things become really interesting because week to week you get to see where teams find small edges just in hero composition and how you value certain play styles, and we get to see it play out, just live in front of our eyes, and then the teams get to adjust to it in the best of three. So honestly, it's beautiful. We're set up for some beautiful games.
Well, let's get down into it. The Melee Creeps roster, some changes if you haven't been following week to week. Lord NM came in on his trial last week, and while Lord NM is not an official part of the team, did well enough, especially in Game 3, where the man just went legendary to get another shot this week. And League, Jake, again, be subbing in for Do, but, across the board, this is still a roster with a pretty enormous amount of experience here in the NAC.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about Saya and John as being kind of like the hearts of this team, but I really got to give a lot of credit to Fishcake, who I think has really risen in the rankings in this team to become a really formidable frontliner, a key part of the success for Melee Creeps. Ido, of course, always going to be a standard bearer on these like very high skill movement-based heroes. But Lord NM has acquitted himself really well last week. I feel like he fits in pretty well with the team. Really is the role that they need, I think, with those early game tempo-based heroes being right in his wheelhouse. And League is, I think, is probably the best sub I could imagine, right? For Do, similar hero pool, also does great on maybe the more spirit focused rather, but still very high economy role. So I still expect big things from League. And honestly, for Melee Creeps, they can play with kind of reckless abandon here. Like, they've got subs. It's easy to say, if FPS Lounge win this week, whatever, we'll get it back next week with the full lineup. But they could easily sneak a win here with that kind of a, open-minded play for fun mentality.
All right, Dan, your chance to either glaze or take down a peg a member of Melee Creeps before we get in the draft, which I hear is ready. Floor is yours.
Ooh, Glaze will take down a Veg. I'm looking forward to seeing John play, actually, because I think John had actually struggled with not with his identity necessarily, but just the level of impact and identity that we saw initially from Melee Creep's most dominant phase. It was all about John playing these insane carry roles, and the game kind of just changed underneath him a little bit. And so I'm looking forward to seeing John's future adaptation into this roster, because he's not faded from the forefront of the team, but it's just that everybody else has been highlighted a bit more. So I want to see some John action. He's a great player, and I'm expecting big things today.
All right, so the draft is ready. We're going to move right ahead into it, and we'll see just what has changed in priority, if anything, between Melee Creeps and FPS Lounge. Of course, FPS Lounge, we just saw their roster, so no, we're still going to go into it. And all right, we just saw the first game here, Jake. Obviously, we talked about Xeno as MVP. Well, let's delve a little bit more specific here. Poppers on the Shiv. You a fan?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't think we even got to see too much of him. It is a flawless game on the Shiv. I really think, there's a nice little balance here, though, with low main AVG and Xeno kind of playing the relatively low eco styles. And then, with Poppers, Leffa, and DMB with a little bit more comfortable free farm, with Leffa and DMB especially kind of being more committed on those side laner roles. I feel like this is a team that's really started to find their niche and like how to balance the roster, like what kind of picks to go for. It feels like they've found their footing with this lineup as far as how they want to draft. And I think they have a clear vision of how to play the game. And that speaks volumes to their ability to have high impact games, whether it's from the more early game focused players or those who kind of look to carry later, deeper down the stretch.
Dan, do you sometimes look at this roster with Leffa on it and wax nostalgic for the days of, oh yeah, it's just Leffa on Hydronation on Infernus every game, like pulling out monster parries? Sometimes we'll see Leffa on the first, but sometimes what we see Leffa play has changed pretty considerably.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. I feel like some of the identity of just the mechanical dominance is all quite, I think, the spotlight on it as it used to be. Always a contender for the man of the match. But the thing that's interesting is that it does also speak to the fact that the game's changed so very much, and that he can't kind of get away with just mechanically just bruisering people with Infernus. I think both because everybody's way better, but also because I think that style of play just isn't not nearly as impactful with everything that we have in the game now.
All right, so I was unsuccessful at summoning the draft before, but now I do believe it is in fact ready, and we'll get a peek at what is under the hood and what is getting valued. I actually think, Jake, the first pick, first ban is actually pretty interesting, because you get some of the drafts where Billy's just outright banned, some drafts where Billy comes in as a first pick, and Doorman kind of shifting in priority one way or another. You have a hero set that's in the top tier, but how it expresses itself in every game is still a pretty bit variable.
Yeah, I don't think the game is solved at all right now. I feel like that's shown when different teams have different perspectives about, especially these very early draft phases where, there's a lot of heroes competing for those ban slots. Different teams, I think, are more willing to play against different threats. Some teams feel like they can manage the pocket well. Other teams say, it's the doorman. We can let that through. We know how to outplay. Melee Creeps, they take away the Mirage. And I think this is a good call. I mean, Mirage, very, very scary hero for key objective fights. The survivability of Tornado is massive. Is a really great impact hero, even on these unstable rips. But take him out of the pool. Leffa's going to have to pick something a little bit more vulnerable to some of those ganks FPS Lounge may want to avoid.
So, Dan, to no one's surprise, Billy comes in with first pick once it's available. But, Melee Creeps, 2 picks open for themselves. And also, don't forget for frontline, Lord NM always has silver in his back pocket.
I got you. I was silver uncontested last game, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. I didn't even think about it, but that's still kind of surprises me. I mean, silver got a lot of nerfs over time, but was still like a very top prio hero even as recently as a couple weeks ago. So interesting to see her maybe falling a little bit out of favor here in NA.
I still think she's really good. It is interesting. I wonder if it's a little bit of an overreaction, but Infernus is really interesting because you've given up Holiday here, and Holiday just seems like such a premium, best in class right now for the pick option. I mean, Bebop's good, but it's a little bit different, I suppose, in some respects compared to Holiday and the output that Holiday can give. But we're going to get Pocket there, so still obviously a chance for the Holiday, but Pocket's a Billy Pocket. It's a nice opener.
The interesting thing to me, Jake, as I look at it, is that in a way, Melee Creeps did what we kind of wanted to see Abrahams do in EU, where they decided we're going to go the Infernus over the Pocket. It does mean Pocket gets picked the latest we've seen him get picked in recent memory, but in terms of prio, I don't hate the Infernus over the Pocket.
I'm worried because I think the Billy actually is a fantastic combo hero for Pocket. I mean, we were talking about in one of the EU series, right, of like the difficulty of getting a big affliction. Teams are so aware about outplaying that ultimate now. They're really conscious to not give more than 1 or 2 man connection. But with the Billy, it's not going to be so easy to avoid, right? Like Billy Chain, we talk about setup for a lash ult, but could be just as effective at getting a big affliction down and, you know, bailing somebody out of trouble. So I like that the Holiday comes in from melee creeps. This gives you a really powerful way to punish the Pocket with extended hard lockdown and a ton of spirit. So I think getting Holiday at 3rd pick also feels pretty good for melee creep.
Yeah, you know, to elaborate on that, Dan, you know, you're a little bit worried about to melee creep saying, hey, FPS Lounge, they can grab the Holiday now. They choose the Calico over the Holiday, and that's a little bit surprising to me, I think, given the power levels of the 2 heroes. But, I mean, clearly FPS Lounge just putting a high prio on the Calico.
Yeah, and that's an average. That's in his hero pool, right? I think that's just something that he often plays. So maybe it's got something to do with some of the hero pools and the way that they're kind of breaking down a little bit. That could be something that's playing into it. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think Holiday was definitely a really strong pickup for melee creeps, and I do wonder if FPS Lounge going to allow melee creeps to get the Bebop as well. You'd imagine that they're bringing in Bebop at some point here in the next couple picks.
My bow is yours.
All right, Jake, we see the GT come out for FPS Lounge. We'll see what the next pick is after. And, you know, on the eye test, I feel like if you look at these teams like a few weeks ago, you might look at melee creeps and be like, some of it is overpowering. But on the same note, like FPS Lounge have also gotten some pretty high premium picks between the Billy, the Pocket, and now the GT, who in my mind is the most variable of heroes, because we've seen GT have really, really good games, and we've also seen GT be arguably the primary reason why a team loses. But is it different to get the GT as high value this late in the draft as opposed to a 1st or 2nd pick?
I think it's still going to be feast or famine. It's sort of just the nature of the character. But GT now with the gun build, I think, can be a bit more consistent. Melee creeps grab the silver. I think they're pretty open now as far as how they finish the draft. Maybe something a little more on the supporty side, but Rem feels a little hard to pick here with it's not being too much spirit damage on the side of FPS Lounge. For FPS Lounge, I'd actually like to see them go maybe for a Paradox instead of Bebop here. Okay, I like the Ivy, you know, as somebody who can do pretty well, D-pushing and you know, some more lockdown potentially to finish off somebody like Geist with the Stone Form before she can swap. But yeah, I'd love to see Paradox for FPS Launch here. I think the downside of Bebop, I think, is it's so scary playing Bebop into Infernus, Shiv, and Holiday. Like, these heroes are not only hard to hook, but they actually can counter kill the Bebop really easily. Like, you get ignited, you have a huge hitbox, very easy to be chain ignited by Infernus. Shiv, same story with the knives, and Holiday is like, honestly, it's the hardest hero to hook in the game. From my experience playing Bebop, when Holiday is like padding around the world and like air strafing through everything, those hooks just feel unhittable. So Paradox may be a little bit more reliable for the counterplay in this comp.
Dan, both rosters are complete. From your point of view, which roster do you like a little bit more between the two?
I think melee agrees. I kind of agree. I think Calico is kind of where I started to go a little sideways to me. I think had they managed to get the Holiday there, I think I would have liked FPS Lounge's comp a lot better. But for melee creeps, I feel like it's super well rounded. There's like so many problems. I love the double threat in the front line with the Silver and the Shiv. I think Silver is still really, really good. Venator gets very tanky. You know, they got pick. Infernus's control in some of these fights, in the team fights, is like very, very good. I think melee creeps for sure for me looks like the more rounded and better lineup.
Jake, to go a little bit deeper on the questioning here, I look at these two drafts, and to me, I feel like FPS Lounge is definitely the more volatile of the two compositions in terms of like potentially really high highs, but also really low lows where, you know, you're running the GT, which of course, you know, just on stacks alone, like you don't quite know what you're going to get. You're running Calico, which is relying a little bit more on like getting early momentum. And of course you have Pocket, where we've seen just today in EU where, you know, big if you get big afflictions and a little bit less so there. Whereas, you know, to me, it sets up the scenario where it's on FPS Lounge to have a higher execution barrier where melee creeps, you know, they have a lower floor to deal with that, you know, potentially can bring them over the top.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I do think it's such a laning heavy meta. It's always, you know, when you pick these characters like Pocket in particular, I think is very much a symptom of this where, like, yes, in theory, the affliction is so powerful, but if that's the only thing the enemy team has to worry about and they can just fully be focusing on that as far as the threat from you, the counterplay feels a lot more consistent. Whereas if you're farmed, you have a strong lane on Pocket, you're able to participate in some of those quick kills and ganks in the mid game, then, you know, the enemy, you can play well around the cape and the suitcase and put down real damage, be an effective threat on the map without even deploying the affliction. At that point, it becomes so much harder to stay split and to kind of like stay avoiding it. So for me, laning phase always has the opportunity to bring things back. But I agree with Dan. I think a more well-rounded comp overall for melee creeps. A solid draft.
All right, well, the game is ready to go. The players have not gone to the bathroom this time, which means it's time for a caster to take it away. DDK, Jake, the floor is yours, starting with DDK.
CP, a believer in equality. I know you got the last one, Jake. so yeah, laning meta, I think that's definitely fair to say. I think we saw a good example of your point playing out there in the last match. If we look at from that 5-minute Guardian, just the tempo that gave to FPS Lounge and how they were able to kind of dictate the following sequence of events from advantage. So we'll have to see, what lanes are going to dominate the most, if any. What looks good to you?
So Billy plus Pocket. I do feel like Pocket is a pretty weak laner, especially after some of those gun nerfs. I feel like he just feels like it does suffer a little bit in the lane. Up against Silver is going to be potentially scary with some real kill threat. If you're able to get ignited by Infernus. So yeah, I mean, the monster round buy, double buy from both Lomane and Leffa. What they can show here, by the way, Leffa on the Pocket, I don't know if I've seen that before.
Same.
I'm actually kind of excited because I feel like we talk about Leffa as a player who's very individually mechanically skilled. I think Pocket, can be played as an affliction bot, but it is really not the potential of the hero. It's when you can have high impact before the ultimate comes out that the hero really starts to shine. So very curious to see how he does perform on this character. I don't think it's a great lane for them, but if they can just survive it well and deep push these waves, I don't know that Silver and Furnace are really going to take this Guardian easily.
I mean, it's Leffa. Maybe we'll see the Glock hit. Maybe we'll see like the gun builds or something like that. That's going to be interesting to see which way he takes it. But I totally agree. Something new to start this one off with. Some quick satchel damage there. Getting the monster rounds first, just making sure that they can keep the waves pushed. As they are definitely like losing out on the pressure at the moment on some of these trades, so they got to be cautious. But so far, pretty good effort from them. I do like the Ivy a lot, Jake, because the threat of dropping, like ulting a teammate like Shiv and then dropping him into a fight to initiate seems actually very strong.
Oh, potential catch here. Cape kind of caught on some geometry, and Ignite's going to come in, so it's going to hurt on Pocket more than most heroes. He's doing so well, so cautiously playing this lane, but one tiny slip up and he loses most of his health. I mean, that's the reality playing Pocket these days. But League and Lord and M took a lot of damage to do so. So this lane still pretty threatening. I mean, the Pocket could just as easily get a burst kill back the other way. So I'd say Leffa's doing pretty well so far. Mid lane, it's going to be... Actually, let's take a look at this other side lane first. Oh, hold on. Trade coming in. Billy got caught also on a corner. Maybe a nice little catch from Lord and M. I think Lomane maybe slipping up with the movement just a bit there.
Really tough lane, especially with just all it takes is like the bullet to connect. I wonder like how many kind of slowing hexes are going to be bought in this play in particular. I'm not wondering kind of what the itemization is going to be looking like in terms of counter buys or buys to try to like close down kills. What are you liking these days, Jake, in like terms of the laning phase?
Laning phase, it seems like a lot of people are back to building healing shot, resto shot alongside monster. That feels like a pretty popular buy. I think there's been some buffs over time, but healing items feel still incredibly important. It feels like almost everyone is going to get some kind of 800 soul healing item. If you can get away, I think with the melee lifesteal and characters that enable that, it's always going to feel good. But yeah, Leffa has gone pretty conservative as both monster and extra regen, which I like actually, because I think you don't want to get too greedy on Pocket. I think you don't need to have a crazy dominant lane. You just need to do decent and make sure the enemy isn't able to like roam away from you before Affliction comes online. Stalker is getting picked up by Poppers. That's another item I think has gotten really popular with Drifter being so good in the meta, Calico. These, I mean, they're not exactly pick heroes in the way a Holiday or a Bebop is, but they offer some of the similar value. And I love the little awareness from Leffa. Expects a little box invade from Lord NM and just slips around the corner.
Well, could get some good damage here onto Silver. Lord NM's going to be pretty cautious. All the cooldowns are gone as well, so no leaping away from this. Good chunk of damage, but Leffa's there. Or rather, sorry, I should say League is there to help. I see Infernus. I think Leffa.
Yeah, Infernus with the L name. Leffa, though, with getting the full stacks on the barrage, always feels really nice to keep taking these trades. And you can see the pressure starting to turn back the other way in this lane. Low main also on the Billy is an interesting one. I mean, this is a very much a hero flex for FPS Lounge, right? Like, low main usually I think plays a little bit more of like the early game initiators and tempo heroes. This time he's on more of the frontliner and Billy. Average on the Great Talon, where last game he was on the Viscous and, you know, really pushing the early game now. Maybe called upon to take a little bit more farm in this one. So it's pretty interesting from FPS Lounge. Not what I would have expected, but see how it actually pans out this game. Good little opening kill. The Poppers finds it onto Fishcake, who would love to be able to find a trade onto Geist, but Geist is just a tough hero to bring down in the lane. Usually we see, I'm curious the build for DMB, but a lot of times I see Geist building as many as like 3 regen items. They build like monster rounds, extra regen, and the the name escapes me, but the 800 spirit regeneration item.
Mystic regeneration.
Mystic regen? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I love getting the double resist 1600 resist greens on him for spirit and for bullet. I'm forgetting the names now as well of everything.
Yeah, but Enchanter's Barrier and
yes.
Bullet Vest?
Shield Vest? Yeah, you got it.
I don't think it's Bullet Vest. I just remember it. Okay.
I love it. No, yeah.
It could be Bullet Vest for me. Oh, battering into the boot cake there. Billy overwhelms. Don't want to get into the melee trade with this hero. This is, I think, one of the reasons Billy became so popular is that kind of dominates Silver. Concussive Combustion doesn't connect on anyone. I mean, Pocket, pretty much impossible to find there with the suitcase, but Billy slips away, and this is going to turn into a double kill. Even with the grit popped, it's just not enough for League to get away.
You know what's interesting, Jake, in terms of monster rounds, because you see that Billy had the monster rounds and the close quarters, is that close quarters is kind of like monster rounds for a lot of heroes where your range is more limited. And so, unless you're getting cultists, sometimes I feel like it's
very great raid from Ido. Yeah, it's always an interesting decision, you know, the early game items. But I quite like Monster, even if you don't go cultist. Just the like tower damage, clearing waves. It's nice in some of these more difficult lanes just to be a little bit quicker clearing the creeps. You have a little bit more time to shoot the enemy hero, so it can be an aggressive item even though it doesn't seem that way. Big chase down from Ido. Real confidence from him, running back into DMB and getting a lot of nukes off this barrel cooldown. Very threatening, but Calico's here to maybe bail out the Geist and look for yet another kill on this lane. It's been a great start for Poppers in this game.
Holy escape from Ida. That's actually incredible. I thought that he'd cooked a little bit too hard. And I mean, I agree. I think the confidence is great. I think Ido is the kind of player that you'd love to see on Holiday. So many offensive mobility-based options, but, you know, does actually escape that situation by the skin of his teeth. Does have to go back to base to heal, but able to get some good pressure there. With that said, though, DMB got back onto the lane pretty quick. You know, being a Geist, you know, you had a lot of regen, ways to get back onto the lane. So back into mid here.
An early sharpshooter here. A lot of damage at long range here for the Great Talon, who'd love to be able to pick up a kill off this trade. Swap under tower for John, but the heals are good, and Saya battling here alongside the Venator, and they're starting to bully back these players. They're going to take the tower here at 8 minutes. I mean, maybe no surprise for an Ivy and a Venator, and if FPS Lounge could get some counter kills, they might feel pretty all right with the way this trade has gone.
Yeah, the poke, especially with the long range, it's so nice from the arrows here of the Talon.
I like this buy from Great Timing. There's a lot of gun damage very early. Sharpshooter, wait, oh my god, he almost died to creeps here. That's actually got to be a little careful.
Yeah, long range is another item, I think, where it kind of kicks in. I think, like, a lot more heroes can use it, I think, really effectively than you might think.
I see a bot sometimes in games that are like really brutal on carries where you're basically just sitting back and turreting on like Venator or whatever, but it's usually a pretty bad sign. I feel like it has been GT and Vindicta who've been the biggest buyers. And Vindicta, another hero I'm maybe surprised we won't see a little bit more of. I think a character that's kind of starting to slowly work her way back into the meta alongside Drifter. Not going to be featured in this match though, and
let's go, Blue.
See if this GT bird can find much of anything. It's been a relatively quiet start, relatively even, but FPS Lounge have developed a meaningful lead here. 4K souls, not nothing here before 10 minutes. Is that a cult stack bought by Xeno? Okay, so I do like this. I love to see when a Paradox scales. I feel like that's kind of what makes her feel like an effective pick when she's able to become even like a bit of a gun carry in her own right. And kind of we've seen that in the past from Paradox, although it seems like she's fallen off a lot. People prefer the spirit nuking that Holiday brings. Speaking of spirit nuking, Ivy going to be on the receiving end of a little bit of that from Great Talent right now.
I see Shiv.
See if this earn dunk comes to fruition. We may have. It's a connection issue. Xeno would love to get an earn dunk here. Talk about the economy. I mean, now that the soul the earn rather gives in general all of its souls to the actual carrier, unless somebody else secures them. I feel like this does feel like a really nice objective option to run for anyone, even any supports. You feel like, hey, it's great eco when you don't have great ways to farm jungle camps, and for carry, sometimes it's the biggest boon of souls you can find on the map.
Hello.
Got you back down.
Any action? And
right as the fight pops off, and he has got the rights. Cannot get this ultimate form off. Solo Affliction pays off. Lord and them goes down, and a dunk to follow. There's still players in this area, though, and Furnace wants to get active as well. Is going to get a counter kill onto Lefa, so League on the signature pick here. Starting to activate into this game. Let's see what he can do in this fight. A couple kills would be exactly what the doctor ordered for an Infernus game. Definitely a hero who wants to push the tempo, even with a little bit more farm in the pocket.
Yeah, and game pretty even at this point, but here's the catch. Again, the roaming from Paradox, from Xeno, ever a threat we saw Xeno was able to do on the Holiday in the previous game. And again, keeping that farm up with the cultists, I really like that choice as well. And also getting the urn. I like how teams at this level, they're prioritizing the urn to the heroes that are roaming the most. So the Bebop's, the Paradox are going to be picking up a lot of those urns, or have priority at least. Or Calico, because Calico also roams a lot, but has the speed with the cat form too.
It's like this tower, not long for this world, with Paradox sieging. GT and Ivy on point blank corners here, both ready for the other to come. Slowing Hex, not doing too much here, and the average is going to be just fine backing out of this one. And Billy coming in to try and turn this into maybe more of a team fight. It doesn't have that chain gang, but with a good amount of debuff resist right now, this hero is pretty threatening, taking these trades with the movement buff.
Oh, again, oh, wow, able to block the
he's in trouble.
all the bursts there. With that shit, that's so smart, so nice here from Xeno. Falling back.
Off though.
Having to go into the pocket. Oh, can't get the jump up. Can't scale the wall.
Yeah, just doesn't have the stamina.
The chase.
Pocket does get the cape off, but it's kind of a rough angle for him. League maybe be able to run this one down. Doesn't want to chase too deep, and Lefa just barely makes it to that little fire escape. Slipping out of this one, and with the zip knock, yeah, that'll be a kill onto Xeno. I mean, adding insult to injury with the Ivy. Dropping a player in on the fight. Ido also showing up to find the final blow. And with that kill, you'd think this would be a free rift, unless FPS Lounge really want to bring resources here. And hold on, they do get that kill into Lord NM. Poppers, it costs him the ult, but he might be willing to stick around here. Yeah, with the CAD form, not going to be easy to pick up out of this rift, even by somebody as strong as Shiv.
Really important one to pick up here, I think it's fair to say, for the FPS Lounge. See if they can pull it off here. Oh, the numbers not favoring them at all. 1v3. It's gonna be very difficult for DMD to survive on the Geist here.
Billy
so many players on top, but in comes some assistance here, just in the nick of time.
Yeah, and the second execute, no one able to go down, so Fishcake not able to get the snowball rolling on Shiv. It feels like this fight's starting to tilt the way here of FPS Lounge. Big chain gang out of low main. He's still healthy on the Billy. He's going to be happy to go for some of these cleanup fights. Lord NM wasting no time getting some of these heavies in with parries down, but has a lot more work to do with the healthy Billy coming into the fight. That will be the rift. Oh, it actually does fade. And so the soul denies. It's going to be pretty much an even trade here across the board. Ivy still alive long enough to make sure that doesn't get fully capped by FPS Lounge. Still, I wonder if Saya is going to be able to slip away from this one.
We'll say though, Jake, whilst all of this has been happening, look at DMB go. He's 17k souls. He's been farming up like crazy. Even though the scoreline is pretty close overall in the souls, and the fight continues here on the right side. Lots of skirmishing, and wow, Ido is just tossing every barrel. And goodbye, low main on the Billy. So overall, Melee Crew's starting to, I feel like, get a little bit ahead here on top of the Rift battle we saw. Again, DMB is just completely undisturbed.
Yeah. You mean John on the Venator?
I mean John.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, DMV's he's doing a lot going for these fights on the Geist, but it's kind of hurt the soul count. John is pulling far ahead. You see that damage brought to bear in that kill, and that's when you love to find as the carry killing the opposing hard carry on the side lane. Just a +1 here, so the soul is split pretty efficiently by melee creeps. That's going to give them what feels like the first kind of meaningful soul lead of this game. FPS Lounge, maybe the team with some more pressure on them. They do have a lot of late game scaling around the pocket, but Left5 has to slow things down and play a little bit more of the farm game here. This is the threat of the holiday, right? Average really struggling, would love to just be able to stay alive and get out of this. Ido's a little bit low on the CD. Is a counter kill going to be attempted on him? He gets swapped in with the bird coming in for the follow-up, but they have a lot of health here still to bring to bear on melee creeps. They're going to turn this into yet more kills. FPS Lounge trying to roam in and punish. They do get one counter trade, but overall a winning fight here for melee creeps.
And again, I just can't hesitate but to look at John just still chilling in the lane, just playing literally his own PvE game at this point, and up to 20k souls. Sometimes gets a friend to assist him, but just is actually playing the easiest game right now. No pressure at all from FPS Lounge because they got their hands full with the rest of the map. So it just goes to show that melee creeps, the whole team is doing exactly the right job here to keep John out of the picture for now and protected.
Yeah, FPS Lounge choosing to fight instead with the Geist rather than greeting in the side lane. Her dominance in mid, though, is keeping the wave pushed out at least, but she doesn't have any green items to speak of. So, you know, it's gone for more of a greedy build trying to keep up in the farm game. We can see that is a tall order this game, considering just how much economy John's getting. So whenever this Venator gets involved, Spark's going to fly. FPS Lounge certainly going to be aware of that threat. 2-man Affliction, hold on. Opportunity for a fight, maybe League and Lord NM getting backed off on the side lane. It's a push, though, potentially coming in on the Walker. Lasso just barely goes wide. Lucky for DMB with a Venator behind. He would not have survived that.
Yeah, it feels like a very dangerous game here. Looking for potentially a swap opportunity you might expect, but this is not a Walker that looks like it's going to survive for very long. Here comes the chain gang, though. Potential counterplay in from FPS Lounge. Can they combo that with anything else here? We're seeing a lot of the slams also, but so much focused fire. And again, with John able to back this one up, it is too much damage output from melee creeps.
Two for one kill trade. So across the map, actually, if you can get this Walker for FPS Lounge, this kind of becomes a winning trade. But the key question is if you can get the Walker, and even if you can you get out with your lives? Ido is fast rotated, trying to get some exits on the fight. Leffa has to stick around quite a long time. This is the value of the pocket, though. Uniquely hard to bring down, but with slowing X, oh, never mind. It's not even close to enough. Still teleports away, but the cape being run down. Good awareness by Ido and Saya to be ready for that escape threat. So as dust settles, I think it's just about dead even trade. I mean, both teams, I think it's what, 2 for 2 kills, Walker for Walker. I mean, these teams are on very similar levels right now. It's very hard for either one to get more than a minor edge in some of these fights.
It's really interesting too, because it still feels like, even though the souls are relatively close, the difference is in John, and that does make a big difference just by nature of the heroes. So we'll see what can be done here by FPS Lounge as they look to try to contest this. And you were mentioning the farm potential for Xeno being a little greedier with the cultists, and 18k souls, almost the top of the scoreboard as far as his team is concerned for net value. And so we might see a pretty nasty paradox in this game.
Yeah, great game for Xeno. Doing well, has a greedy build, and is still on a 4-kill streak. So he's not like that he's farming up. I mean, he's playing into the team fights and just getting away with greed. So whenever you're able to slip in and a little bit of that extra farm item, I feel like it makes a big difference. Paradox also does benefit quite a lot from that ability range that Cultist offers, at least while it's online. Slowing X, oh shit, a little bit greedy. Wasn't watching the door. Fishcake probably should have been aware of this threat, and Billy's kind of caught him dead to rights. He does do a nice little dash to slip away, but the bird stun at the crucial moment drops him to the low ground. Feels like this kill should certainly be run down, and yes, FPS Lounge will find it. That's a nice find on a Fishcake who a little bit too greedy, just low awareness there. Should have been ready for a potential invade.
Nice lasso. I think this is like the wrong play.
Oh
you know, you want to lose really early on. DMB and not able to get the swap off. Assassinated by John, and the rift control now here as well from melee creeps looks, I think, far too much to contest at this point. If you're FPS Lounge, they're gonna have to try to find value elsewhere on the map, but there's nothing pushed, no waves pushed anywhere, nothing, no macro for them to really kind of, you know, use to mitigate this loss. And so they're just gonna have to try to find a pick here, and right now it feels like melee creeps are taking control.
This is a wild move. They do not have any ultimates to support this. Mid boss is going down, but is there going to be a contest? Feels like FPS Lounge that you can't not give this up for free. The rejuve drops pretty quick. GT throws a curse trap on the pit, but really can't stick around, and the players just aren't there for the contest. Quick rejuve last hits picked up. Melee Creeps get all three. A big affliction comes in. Bird connects as well. So does the chain gang. So these rejuves are not long for this world, so it would seem. But FPS Lounge have to play with the real lives here. No secondary survival. Popper's already down. Melee Creeps back up off their respawns, looking to punish DMB and Low Main for daring to set foot here in the pit. John also a huge problem here. So farmed up on this Venator and finally into a proper team fight, but he's getting low. A kill on John would be worth its weight in gold here. He's still low HP. If he'll just be able to slip away back to the base and get a reset, that would be fantastic for Melee Creep.
Yeah, John looking to get away off with this one. And I mean, ultimately, even though all the rejuve crystals have been eliminated, great effort there from FPS Lounge to limit the issues with that. But at the same time, you know, they are losing. They're still losing from the macro perspective. All the lanes are pushed against them. The whole map is kind of under the control of Melee Creeps, and Melee Creeps starting to finally extend that lead in a meaningful fashion. And with John not dying, he's keeping his souls per minute up. And in fact, make it even worse now that he's picked up the urn. And he's going to just deposit that. And again, the control is with Melee Creeps. I don't think that they can stop that.
Very nice efficiency. I mean, he basically just full heals from Fortitude. He doesn't even have to go back to base. So he stays on the map, and using, you know, Fortitude while urn running is really efficient here for the carry. It's like, this is a pretty massive injection of souls straight to one player. And you can see for John, he's up to 30k now. Definitely going to be hitting full build this game on the Venator. And FPS Lounge, they don't really have, I don't see any disarming hexes. They're kind of lacking tools to deal with the Venator here. We saw John very nearly go down in the last team fight, so I mean, killing him is probably the best way you can deal with him, but there's so many other threats to worry about as a lasso comes in onto Low Main. He's going to get run down. Saya finds the finish there. Trying to get a counter kill on Holiday is a really tough prospect as she pads away to safety. Melee Creeps, I mean, it's been a heck of a game for them so far. An early deficit against them, but they bring it right back, and now they're firmly in the driver's seat of this game, Dan. Dan? We may have lost Dan again. Starting to become a bit of a theme here.
Yeah, every now and then it's just like, well, it's also difficult because Dan sometimes will do dramatic pauses for sounds.
I'm like, this is a really dramatic pause, CT. Like, I don't know how dramatic I should wait for, but we got a gank here coming in onto League, gets swapped down, it just cut to pieces. Was confident in the 1v1 against Poppers, wasn't ready for Xeno to come in and bail it out. There's a GT Bird coming in to assist for more. Lord and them tried to get active into this too, and looks like he's going to also be punished. So a great little roam from FPS Lounge. I'd say this is a good fundamentals from Melee Creeps to gank where the enemy walker is already down, but FPS Lounge just fully read the play. They've got numbers here to take the 2v3 and protect DMB's guys, set him up for a real comfortable farming pattern here.
Yeah, sorry about dropping out all the time. I don't know, my voice for some reason is just Discord server. It's not liking me for some reason today. So this has never happened before. This is a first on night shift, of course. And here we go. We get the assault from DMB, trying to force a reaction. The 1v1 against Fishcake. Is he going to try to trade his life for this? He might not have to, actually. He might be able to get both here. Have his cake and eat it as well.
Walker. Oh, he needs to be able to dodge this stun. The follow-up stun is just comes crashing down on his head. Huge for League. He's able to get in. If DMB gets that Walker, it feels very worth. I like the play overall from FPS Lounge. They force a fight elsewhere on the map. Saya goes down. So in the end, it's a 1-for-1 with massive Walker damage. The downside is, DMB is theoretically the hard carry, but he's been playing so aggro this game. He's not even rich enough to be worth a ton of souls. So actually, economy-wise, all that Walker damage is going to be cashed in later. I think that's a good play for FPS Lounge. A bit of an unconventional one, but they make it work.
Yeah, certainly. It's a very sad result for DMB dying, but like you say, still keeping the overall soul difference, in control. And so long as they avoid this, just don't get impaled by the crossbow. Oh my god. I
mean, the wave is getting really bad now for Melee Creeps, but okay, they do find the lockdown just in time, but Idol gets absolutely obliterated. Popper shows up, and oh no, a warp stone into the trap. Low Main goes down. Maybe it wasn't long for this world anyway, with Fishcake showing up to the party. 1 for 2 across the map, and if you can cut your losses to just the Billy, Low Main's going to be pretty all right with that. Once again, DMB activity here at an all-time high for Geist. I mean, he has not been greeting it up on the hard carry this game. He has been more than willing to show up into contested areas and still doing pretty well on the farm. And with as well as Average and Left are doing, I feel like FPS Lounge, they're playing this a little unconventionally with guys not hard farming as much as we expect, but overall as a team, they're still doing well in the soul count.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually really crazy to see that they look dangerously close to taking the overall soul lead. Again, John's a problem, but the thing is that if that advantage can't kind of convert into just shifting the team fights massively in favor of Melee Creeps so the rest of his teammates can start to get ahead as well, then all the FPS Lounge have to really do is just play around John effectively when he's got Iridomini out, especially. And they're going to actually pick up FPS Lounge that urn as well, looking to go for and run it. And it's very hard to stop Calico from dunking it. Very interesting game right now, Jake. The fact that we are pretty much completely dead even on souls actually at this time in the game almost starts to feel bad in a way for Melee Creeps because so much of the advantage in souls is pulled onto one player.
That's a great point. And Calico, I think these days with the urn in general, if you get the pickup, you're almost certainly getting the dunk. It's just too hard to contest the urn when you don't know where the enemy is on the map, and they get such a powerful buff from holding it. But with Calico, it's on a new level. I mean, that is like, what, a 15-20 second urn run? Pretty insane. Little soul injection for Poppers, who's been quietly doing really nicely this game. I feel like he's been in the key fights every time he needs to be. Veilwalker spotted out the last second. Still going to be able to connect the lasso, but there's no follow-up. And with the Warpstone plus battering ram, it'll be a relatively easy escape for Lowman. You can see, though, decay on Shiv plus a couple knives. That could easily turn into a kill. Real damage threat from Fishcake this game.
Yeah, and interesting there, just got a quick look at the birds damage as well. Only +8 though, so Average not necessarily having a lot of impact with the bird, but obviously with Talon there's lots of ways to get the damage output and make it consistent. So we'll see what he's able to do, but as you say, good performance here from Poppers to stay competitive. Also got Xeno, just like, I'm curious at Xeno's build. I don't know if we'll get a look at that in a moment, because being so ahead in souls, there's so many ways you can go with a Paradox in terms of your build. Like you can create damage pretty hardcore if you want.
We have seen that in the past. It looks like he's got more utility focus, has the Echo Shard, so okay, it's going to be the bomb build. I don't actually see this all that often, but I mean, he has pretty ridiculous AoE on the bomb this game with the Transcendent cooldown as well. It is going to be brutally hard to push into this Paradox if you ever really want to attempt it. And the Rift opening could be a great time to showcase what this Paradox build really does. It's going to be scary to kind of play in some of these expanding time bombs. You start to get those stacks up on you, and this ability really hurts.
Decent chunk of unsecured souls at the moment there, 600 plus. Gotta be careful not to drop a bag. I think so far Xeno's shown just mastery around the positional game, understanding really how to kind of play in these fights as Paradox, not actually get taken out, always surviving. And I feel bad for Low Main getting targeted so often, the lowest net worth player on the team for FPS Lounge, so not quite as tanky as Billy as you would expect, but still managing with all the tools, the Rising Ram, the Warpstone, and various survival items to stay alive.
The wave is pretty good for Melee Creeps here. They're going to fight this. It's going to come down to a big exchange of brawling tools here. Saya with that healing tempo, keeping people healthy, and FPS Lounge have to back off initially. Aren't able to stick around for too long. Xeno not going to be able to hold his line on the Paradox for too long. You see that tankiness on Billy really being called into question. Starting to bleed out potentially to the Shiv, who's running rampant now. Not just full health, but even over-shielded here. Melee Creeps charging forward. The Affliction on the League. You'd think that'd bring down Infernus, but he's able to slip away from the pocket. So Lefa not able to find too much impact in the fight, and it will be a successful take here on the Unstable Rift.
Yeah, interesting situation. Everybody's very low for FPS Lounge. They're in a full retreat scenario. Lefa's got stuck deep in this fight here against Ido. And oh, wow, Xeno comes in to save the day. Lefa now has a path to escape, thanks to Xeno. And they're going for the mid boss right now, Melee Creeps, but I don't think...
Pocket is low.
They're not going to allow this FPS Lounge.
I mean, the Pocket's going to not be able to reset. He has to come into this fight on very little HP. Lefa knows it's not okay to give up this mid boss. Ivy in the pit, that Stoneform, a huge threat. Counterspell comes out, big swap out of the pit, huge find from Xeno. That sets up for the triple reju grab from FPS Lounge. Melee Creep still bringing the damage, but as the trades come in, FPS Lounge playing with the house cash, the extra lives starting to be cashed in, and Melee Creeps low across the board. What a find from Xeno in this team by Melee Creeps. The bluff is called. Xeno cashes his checks in, and John being targeted. Ivy desperately would love to get this hard carry out of the fight, just somehow surviving, but the full bear of FPS Lounge are going to be running down these players. The lifesteal, the sustain is amazing, but eventually it starts to run dry, and DP here on the guys, even with a quadruple shotgun hit, it's not going to be enough to get John out of trouble.
Xeno is the GOAT. I don't know. Oh my god, he got the MVP in the last game, and maybe this is the workings of another MVP for this series. That was an incredible play on the Paradox. We haven't seen too much priority from Paradox of late, but maybe that needs to change. Now the fight from above and average, able to get the damage on top of Ido, and just like that, we've got a pretty decent chunk of solid advantage finally for FPS Lounge that have been trailing for, I would say, fairly, I think just for the entire 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they had like an early initial lead. Melee Creeps brought it back, but with that one fight, game completely turned on its head, and maybe the biggest lead of the game now of any team is in favor of FPS Lounge. They bring double buffs in, they're about to cash and earn in, and the lead isn't done expanding just yet. Melee Creeps still off the board with 3 players, especially John and Ido, 2 key fighting heroes in this match. There's a lot of space for FPS Lounge. Just gobble up these sinners, gobble up the camps,
I'll be ready,
and really start to develop a massive lead in this game.
Oh, that was so beautiful, Jake. I'm just thinking about Xeno's swap. You know, you get that level 3, you can swap multiple targets. It's just glorious. So good.
He has a refresher. That's disgusting here. I mean, he's going to have so many charges of the time bomb. He's going to have multiple swaps. This Paradox is going to be massively disruptive in the team fight. So I actually think it's a really nice build choice up against the Venator this game, who's a hero that really relies on the positional game. Like, Venator is not a highly mobile carry. You want to kind of get your, bunker set up and kind of play defensively around your traps and, fight on your own terms. But this Paradox build is going to make that nigh impossible. You get swapped into open ground, and it's just going to be a feeding frenzy for this FPS Lounge squad.
And look at that too, the hero damage there. It is, of course, none other than Xeno right at the top of that leaderboard. Just beautiful stuff. I'm trying to see if there's anything
crazy
that stands
spirit
out.
damage with this. Like, he's going to be, I think he's probably full, almost full maxed on the spirit boons. Once he buys his upgraded AoE item, he's going to have that final +100 spirit investment. And I mean, this Paradox is going to be very scary. Great lasso though on to Great Talon, the ideal target, essentially a free kill. His hero just does not have the tankiness to sustain through a catch like that. So for Ido, it's a big one to bring back. It's a long road to climb, but that's the way to start it.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff from FPS Lounge. Very, very, very cool to see. And, with all of this too, you've got, I think, Lo Mein, he's kind of caught up into a much healthier position. I think Lo Mein was doing really, really well. I think he's staying active and creating problems from, I think, a pretty big deficit as to where you would want the ability to be. And now just, in a much more comfortable position to be, I think, much more impactful in these team fights. So things really, truly changing here for FPS Lounge for the better. And with that said, Melee Creeps are the ones that have full wave priority across the entire map.
This twosome is going to be pretty scary, though. This is like kind of the hope for Melee Creeps right now, is that John and Saya together. I mean, the healing tempo is a crazy DPS boost. I wonder if he's got his leash maxed out on Ivy so he can perma-leash the Venator. I don't think the two of these players are going to really leave each other's side, maybe for the rest of the match, because there's crazy synergy, I think, in between those two. Like, permanent healing tempo, tons of sustain coming out from the Ivy. This is for sure, like in a very farm Venator game, this is the way to play, right? Just give him every resource you possibly can.
Pretty tense moment, I think, in the game as well, as a lot of the neutrals have been cleared out. Both teams would love to get a pick right now to start taking more initiative. And the waves, need to be pushed a little bit from the side of FPS Lounge, because right now that you can see that they're very wary that they could get picked off here, just, hugging around that mid position together. And it's not really too much for them to do in terms of pick up souls right now.
I do think FPS Lounge really want to hold on to these walkers, because we're kind of getting close to the point where the slots are going to become an issue. Like, John has only 3K and above items at this point, so the efficiency of his next buy is not good if he cannot open another walker up. Ivy dropped Venator deep into the back lines, trying to catch here. On to Poppers, running him down. You see that beam come in. The Venator hits like a truck. The affliction is onto John, which cuts off the healing, cuts off a ton of the sustain. Now, Fishcake called into question. The chain gang is going to prevent his escape. John really can't come into the fight with that affliction on. As it starts to expire, though, they might look into this as a 5v5 begins to develop.
Yeah, really interesting moment here for both teams. The Unstable Rift is going to be, I think, claimed by Melee Creeps at this rate. We do have a more important potential fight. I don't know. Are they going to dive into this FPS Lounge? Looking for a good engagement. You can see, again, Xeno very, very cautious how he picks his positioning here for those fights.
DMB would love to have stalled that out, but he gets boot kicked out of the zone. The swap even can't come in time, dies in the animation, loses the ultimate, loses his life. And that's a big win for Melee Creeps, brings them right back into this match. FPS Lounge a little tentative on the play, and despite having a 2-walker advantage, not able to really push the lead and force another team fight, although hold on, Lord NM maybe bites off more than he can chew. Tries to chase down AVG and can't finish the job, dies himself instead.
And Lomain's very low, gets taken down as well. Mid-boss is up, let's not forget. There's a huge, huge problem here potentially for FPS Lounge if they lose anything else. And you've got that combo, the synergy you were talking about, the insane damage.
This is getting scary. The Venator, Ivy together, they bomb under a walker. That is pretty terrifying, and they get 3 huge kills. Xeno, for all of his heroics around the last mid-boss, is not going to be here to contribute to this one. And for FPS Lounge, a contest seems tenuous at best. I mean, Leffa should have Affliction pretty soon, but I don't know if there's enough follow-up to really get any kind of a fight off. This might be a clean redo for Melee Creeps. Affliction is thrown, but completely whiffed from Leffa. Doesn't connect on anyone. The parry's going to be attempted, but all 3 redos claimed by the Melee Creeps. They're going to pick up some kills to boot. And this game may have just slipped away from FPS Lounge. It was looking so promising for them at times, but JonJon and Saya together, indomitable at this moment. I mean, an unstoppable combo. Anywhere they go on the map, these FPS Lounge heroes seem to just fall.
And it is such a classic Melee Crew story. JonJon and Saya, you know, just combining to create horrible, horrible things for their opponents. Now the assault onto the base begins, and they're going to be able to pick up so much of an advantage now. We're looking to go deep here, charging in, picking up extra kills would go really, really far. Staggering the deaths for FPS Lounge would be horrendous. They'll lose so much more.
To a Venator decides to bring the fight. Shiv trying to be run down, but Lomate, you're still down a couple players, still up against Rejubes. He does get a kill back, and if he could just escape this, that'll be pretty nice. Decay still ticking on this Billy. Not nearly as tanky as you might expect. And JonJon keeps the pressure on. He's going to start pushing towards some of these Guardians. Ido keeps looking for more. Can't quite get any connections deeper into the base. DMB is a potentially scary threat, especially as Lomain comes right back in with the chain gang, counterspelled by Ido, so he'll be able to slip away. But FPS Lounge, they're making a lot of space, actually. Just dancing around well enough to slow down this siege from Melee Creeps. It's going decent so far.
Yes, 1 Rejuve left, so able to burn a couple of those away. But still, the pressure comes in from FPS Lounge. How much are they going to commit into this one? It looks like pretty much everything that they can. But still looking really strong here right now. Melee Creeps looking to take down this shrine. They're not deterred at all. The patron drop seems inevitable.
3-man Affliction, that was pretty huge from Leffa. Still alive and healthy on the pocket. He's going to be able to get in and maybe try to finish up some of these kills. And Fishcake on the Shiv. Looks like he's going to tick out from Affliction. Counter matchup goes well against him, and he should die, right, on Shiv? Oh my, did he really live on Shiv? That is crazy. He was down to no HP whatsoever. Barely survives. Counterkill to Lord and M is going to be all they find, but holding on to the second shrine, pretty nice from FPS Lounge. There's not many teams that in the face of that kind of siege would be able to get rid of the rejuves and keep the second shrine up. So there's still just a sliver of a chance for them in this game.
Yeah, only a 14k difference as well on the souls.
Why does Saya have 11,000 souls? He needs to go to a shop right now. Lasso in the mid, but no one's here to follow this one up. It's just Infernus. Maybe that'll be enough, though. The concussive combustion stun follow-up comes in, and the chain disables. Not enough debuff resist on DMB. Goes down again without really being able to contribute to this fight. And maybe the bleeding is not done yet, Dan.
Yeah, going back in for another bite at the cherry, and this time it could be the end for FPS Lounge. Leffa's going to get taken out as well. Everybody's falling, Xeno extremely low on health now as the fight continues outside the base. And this is looking pretty horrendous right now. But Melee Creeps, they've taken some damage. A couple players down. They've got to be cautious here not to overextend. However, with JonJon right at the back, 55k souls. He's got Saya's heals. And just,
oh my god.
It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, remember all the farm on this Venator. You might be, only in a 4v3, but with Venator on the field, it feels like at least a +1. Scourge is out from low main, though. That'll do well against Venator. But with Vamp Burst, he's able to just tank through it completely, disrespecting the front line of FPS Lounge. Shrine is down. They're looking now for more kills. A slight movement hiccup from JonJon, though, probably cost him that kill onto low main's Billy. He's going to be happy to get a health reset here. Patron drop, though, feels inevitable. Venator started to beam down on the throne. A boot kick, tries to catch low main, slips away for now, but this Billy goes down right as the Patron falls. It could be devastating to the game. Low main is doing so much with so little, though, at this moment. Somehow survives. But Poppers won't be so lucky. The Patron not far behind him. Melee Creeps happy to take this win and back off, get their buys out. Low main trying to get some kind of a catch fight, though, with DMB off the spawn.
Don't know about this one. It's going to get chased down by everybody, and it might be an opportunity for Melee Creeps. Oh, they are down.
Low main is so good. He keeps getting away with these little cheeky fights. That sets up for a two-man affliction. You catch John and Saya, arguably the best two targets, turn their heals off. And if guys can run down this kill onto the Venator, this is going to be an insane turn in the game. This could swing the lead actually back in favor. Can you actually finish your plate, though? I mean, Venator in the corner, surrounded by FPS Lounge players. Even John can't play his way out. But Low main is doing, I mean, honestly, he's doing insane work on the Billy to be able to force, like, they attempt to kill him over and over and over again, and they just can never get the job done. They get baited into a really bad fight. And John's on the deck for 70 seconds. You might be able to contest this rift even.
It definitely creates opportunities for sure, as John is the main threat.
Ivy's gonna be very happy to finish that one. I think if DMB had been a little quicker, he might have been able to contest it.
Yeah,
would have been fightable without John.
Yeah, like you say, you know, hard to punish the end these days.
Oh, are they doing mid boss? Is mid boss up?
It's up.
They're all in the mid pit. They're thinking about it.
This is the moment. I feel like.
I mean,
right?
there's no John. John's 60,000 souls. Like, having him off the field, you've got to gamble the game with your Patron dropped. Average is down. Saya found one. An attempt to potentially end here for League, who's in the base, but with the counterspell available, players still here on the defense. A beautiful split of the resources from FPS Lounge pays off big time. They read Melee Creeps going for the risky end, and they absolutely crush them on the punish. This could be FPS Lounge comeback starting here.
Wow, Melee Creeps, I can't believe they went for that one. They didn't quite know whether to try to challenge mid-boss or what to do. The punish, as you say, now sets up everything nicely for FPS Lounge, looking to try to capitalize, chase down the remainder. Ido trying to get away with the jump pads here.
Fishcake's
just
bleeding.
Throwing out absolutely everything. The cloak is coming, everything coming the way of Ido. But I mean, this is the most mobile here. It looks like Ido should be good to get out of this. But in the meantime, Fishcake's going to go down. And as you say, you know, okay, John was down for like 80 seconds. But now 4 players for Melee Creeps are down for 50 to 70 seconds. So massive amounts of time to work the map with the rejuice. The only thing, though, is that the right and left lane push completely against the base of FPS Lounge right now.
FPS Lounge are super desperate for a shrine right now. Like, that's what you need to keep this game winnable. If you go back to your base without a shrine, I still think you've lost this game. And I think they may feel the same. All these players down. They're opening the base guards first. Really expect them to keep the pressure on. I mean, it's a tough scenario to keep pushing. But if you back off now, it'll be the play they go for now. Maybe they have to do one more defense. But the rejuve just doesn't last that long. Maybe with John up, it's just too much of a damage threat to risk. Of course, if a team fight goes against you here, if you die without those rejuves, it will be the game for Melee Creeps. Still on just one fight away from finishing off this game one, securing a win. It would take heroics for FPS Lounge to stay in this one. And all they're going to find for now is the base guards. Maybe some more kills could be snowballed off the back, though.
Yeah, I think it was so brutal because they had to also keep DMB back in base. DMB had to protect against the shove on the left and right lanes to prevent them from just losing the game outright to troopers. So they didn't quite have maybe the power on that push that they needed. So opting to play more conservatively and, you know, with the double rejuve, able to get the map control again. Now they're in a stronger position to make plays happen in one respect, where it's a little bit less risky, but the team fight is going to be way harder.
I mean, DMB gets a big buy. Scourge and Leech. This Geist is not going to be easy to bring down. Can actually maybe face the Venator in open combat, and a push of the Shrine comes in. Immediate chain comes out, connects on a couple players. Low main has been fantastic on the Billy in every stage of this comeback. A 3-man affliction set up for big find from Lefa now. Melee Creeps, they have their own base to play off of. These rejuves aren't too long for the world. FPS Lounge trying to get kills, trying to take these objectives down before their rejuves expire. DMB incredibly low on the Geist. Looks like the first shrine is going to go down, but now everyone's starting to play more for these kills. Saya goes down. Ivy off the field. No heals, no sustain now for the Venator. A kill taken back the other way. The rejuve's now gone. It's down to this team fight. Xeno incredibly low. The Paradox has been fantastic this game, but that may be his last showing. Still, the trade comes in for DMB. The item buy is really paying impact, and finally this guy finds herself on even footing as she looks to clean up this second shrine and equalize the objective game for FPS Lounge.
Yeah, this is starting to look really, really good for FPS Lounge. I think Lefa earlier managing a key affliction, really creating space here for the siege to continue. But right now, you got trouble for the Geist. It's going to be very, very hard to get out of this situation. E-Shift is forced out, so it's going to slow things down here for the Infernus, and League will go down. And so, with 3 players dead at the moment, FPS Lounge still in a pretty good shape at the moment, as Ido is going to look to chase down the kill. Nice shot.
Huge that he kills AVG, but he's so far out of base, surely is going to go down here. Swap is good onto Fishcake. He's going to regenerate a good amount of that, mitigating some of the damage from the bloodletting, trying to turn this into another kill. We'll find that one, though, and so we're down right. It's a 2v3 number advantage for Melee Creeps FPS Lounge. How are they going to play this? DMB just does not have the mobility to slip away. Parry still available. E-Shift comes out from John, and I think DMB just starting to run out of gas, even with the Scourge, even with all the lifesteal. Eventually, this Geist is going to go down, but Lefa lives. Like, Xeno's coming back off the spawn to defend. I don't think you can end here for Melee Creeps. It's at least going to be contested.
I think mid-boss can't be far away. Yeah, 40 seconds away for the mid-boss. Everybody from Melee Creeps is going to be up, so they can play for the mid-boss and just like get the rejuves. And that's like the game-ending moment.
No one's
for
fixing
FPS
the wave.
Lounge.
There's a huge wave of creeps. Melee Creeps. Why? They're not fixing the wave. That's scaring me. They're going to go for the end. They're going to try and get the GG push here. Affliction just onto 1. I don't think that's going to be good enough. Xeno needs to put on a huge defensive match because with the Patron just dropping in moments. You got to get in there. You got to get that defender resist on. You cannot play out of the pit. 1 player in. Do they get the full resist in time? No. John calls the bluff, steps up into the pit, tanks the Affliction, and finishes the job. The Venator gets it done, and Melee Creeps find themselves at the 1-0 advantage in the series.
What a back and forth game. The sine wave was complete. A nearly 50-minute game towards the end as Melee Creeps ends up taking it. But man, oh man, did FPS Lounge make them work for it and more. What a way to kick off our NA money match. And, you know, Dan, I'll throw it to you. Quick thoughts on the game. I mean, if possible, because this went back and forth.
I think if not for Xeno, it would have been a 30-minute game in favor of Melee Creeps. Xeno had an amazing performance on Paradox. And I mean, if you looked at how ahead Melee Creeps were in some respects with how just untouched John was, it was really impressive how the rest of the team, especially Xeno on the Paradox, managed to stay super active and be very impactful in a lot of these team fights. Oh man, that was absolutely ridiculous.
Jake, how much was John at server admin stats at parts of this game just this far ahead? Ira Domini, I mean, it goes from that's a pretty powerful ult into that's a straight up old school railgun. And how was leading people?
I mean, especially with the Ivy by his side, right? The healing tempo, full link. I mean, that you can't underestimate for a gun carry how much of a difference that sustain and aggression difference is made by the Ivy. So, I mean, an all-in commit from Melee Creeps on the success of John in this game, and it pays off, but only barely. I mean, this one is a distance of inches for the win in game 1.
Dan, these highlights are going to go a lot longer than the norm, but you know, as we go through the course of the game, what moment are you looking to relive here?
I think it's the Xeno swap. I think that for me was like one of the most epic moments because it was a desperate play into the mid boss pit. I mean, maybe you could argue for Melee Creeps, kind of a bold move, but at the same time, like you could see why they would make it. But Xeno getting the AoE swap and just capturing every single rejuve. They had also all been low after the previous fight, all of FPS Lounge, so they were able to convert that just off the skin of their teeth. And I think for me, that was where the game suddenly became really doable for FPS Lounge. So for me, that's the highlight.
I'll say this moment too. I think this series of kill trades was really huge for Melee Creeps. They're down 20k souls. There's 2 Walker advantage for FPS Lounge, who are playing really defensively around these Walkers, trying to bait some kind of a fight. And Melee Creeps bring the fight to them, and they actually are able to win it, clean the Walkers, open the map up. And I feel like that's the moment where FPS Lounge have an advantage. They just can't push it. And the threat from the John Venator is just too real, and they can't even weather the storm when Saya brings the fight to them. And that's, I think, a big statement win for Melee Creeps, especially given how many comebacks were in the case of this series. I mean, the lead just went this way and that. Oh, and even a lasso out of the pit. I didn't even see this, but on the real, like, Ido lassos Xeno out of the pit to get rid of the backdoor protection, which actually I think could be saving the game if you don't get that done. If Lomain makes it into the pit, they could get the 2 players in the pit and win the fight with an Affliction.
Dan, we got the final stats here. 43 kills to 43 kills. Quite literally does not get more even than that, but also we're looking at the damage stats for the game. We saw the return of Ido on the holiday. Of course, you go far enough back in time and Ido was on Playmaker, pick style characters a lot. A little bit less so in recent times. It was actually Saya that was playing it more, but Saya's on the Ivy. We get the return of Ido on the holiday, 69k. But then on the other side, I mean, a lot of damage being pumped out by AVG. And I mean, really, the stat line between both teams, it's pretty even.
Oh yeah. It's incredibly. It's very rare, I think, that you see a game this even and things kind of going back and forth in the way that it did. And it's just so interesting to see the amount of healing from Sai, because I feel like all of that went to John, and then John also just had 30k healing as well for himself. So with the leech items and Bam Burst and all the rest. And I think another point too that's interesting is that AVG, I feel like, very quietly top damage in the game.
Jake, just because people are going to attach to it as the one outlier here, Lord NM, we see at 4 and 14, but is it a little bit harsh to judge off the KD given the fact that Silver in a lot of fights still was making space by virtue of being Silver? What's your take on Lord NM's performance here?
I do think in the early game there was a couple of bad deaths for him. I think if you make the one-to-one comparison with Lomane, who I think is on a similar kind of a role this game, where you're like frontlining but without much farm, I feel like Lomane is the player who comes away with a really huge W in that category. Like, he was able to constantly bait these fights where, like, he's on the verge of death. If melee creeps catch and kill him, they could win the game off the back of it, but he just somehow keeps slipping away, keeps baiting melee creeps to stay just that little bit longer and get punished. So normally I would be like, okay, maybe it's a tough game. Maybe you're just tanking a lot of deaths on Silver that maybe needed to happen somewhere on the team. But with the way Lomane played this game, it's hard to kind of cut him that slack with the similarity of the two roles and how much better Lomane was able to execute. But in the end, it's a team game, and melee creeps get the job done as a unit. They're still playing with 2 subs today. I feel like Liga acquitted himself pretty nicely in this game, despite the skill level and how hard it is, seemingly, to get a successful Inferno Assault when the counterspell comes out on the other side.
All right, that was a long game. I know the players need a break, the casters need a break. Dan, any final thoughts before we head off for a little bit and get ready for map 2?
I don't know what we're going to expect to see in the draft. I feel like that's one of those games where both teams managed to show why their draft worked. So I'm just excited to see what the teams are going to be doing. And you guys are going to be absolutely in for a banger, because both teams playing like so evenly. I feel like we don't get this super often.
All right, well, melee creeps are up 1-0. FPS Lounge, though, made it about as difficult as possible. Could we get the maximum deadlock here again today? EU went to 3. Will NA do the same? Stay tuned in. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, everyone. This is Night Shift. It's number 46. ZP here with Jake and DDK. And Jake, this last game was about as close as you could get. The sine wave was complete, but melee creeps, they edge it out at the end.
We may be in for a long one today, ZP, if that game was any test. I mean, that one went just about as long as any we've seen. And for the kill score, as the dust settled to be exactly even, 43 to 43, is just about as perfect as they come.
Dan, we were talking a little bit in the middle break of, teams switching up roles, who's playing what, and it was kind of return the form for Ido, who at one point in the past did used to play things like Paradox and Holiday with more regularity. We weren't quite sure what to expect, but, Ido felt at home getting to play Holiday again.
Yeah, it feels like for me, I want to see Ido playing Holiday as much as possible. It kind of seems to fit his playstyle. I think maximally, he's such a playmaker. He loves high mobility heroes. He's got really good mechanics, and he loves to kind of like I think Holiday with the air control that you get that's unique to Holiday. I think it gives Ido the ability for skill expression that he really enjoys, and I think he can kind of push the limits a lot with this hero. So I think it's a great fit. So I hope we get to see it more.
Well, the draft should be ready, so we're just going to hop right on into it and see what changes, if any, that both teams are going to make. And, to me, the eye test, one thing I keep seeing today is that Infernus just seems to keep winning. Pockets had a tougher day overall today. Jake, you're drafting right now. How much do you potentially change some priorities on the conventional wisdom right now?
Oh, it's such a tough call after a game like that, like how to change your draft. Because I think you could make the argument that either team had moments that they could have run away with things. So FPS Lounge, though, maybe they found their answer. They're not going to let Holiday through this time. Takes an opening ban.
Yeah, Dan, we're just talking about the Ido Holiday. FPS Lounge, they got one taste of it and said, nah, not for us. Now, they do have first pick, so we'll see what weapon melee creeps takes away. In this case, it's going to be the Mirage. And, to me, this kind of feels like a low main Billy angle, just because, I mean, people talk about, I haven't really seen low main play a whole lot elsewhere than Billy, but why would he when his Billy's been so good?
Yeah, I mean, I actually started watching his stream a bit like quite recently, where he started playing Billy loads on stream, and you can see he really deeply understands how to just milk all the value out of that hero. Very, very good at it. But Doorman instead, I think it makes sense. We've seen we've seen the potential of Doorman. Still very annoying hero and unique in terms of what he offers.
So, Jake, this leaves open the Billy for melee creeps. The pocket is also still available, too, depending on where they want to bring it. But instead, Jake, they decide our overall first pick. Now, obviously, the second pick is in the same level, but they're still putting a high priority on the Infernus. I wonder if they back it up with the Shiv once more.
Yeah, I think some of this is also for League. When you have a sub in, I think it's really important that your sub is on a hero that they are extremely comfortable on, because the team play aspect is going to be a challenge. So I think I like that they grabbed the Infernus. I think the Billy is a great little second to follow it up. Billy looked like super top tier in low main's hands last game, and it's a good setup tool for Infernus in some of these team fights, mitigating enemy players' mobility and locking them down when they're caught in the fire and flames.
No more hiding.
So, Dan, in this case, you've picked up the Doorman, but it comes at the cost of Billy for low main. And FPS Lounge says, yeah, maybe it didn't work last time, but the game was close enough. We're not going to blame it on it. They go with the pocket here once more. But now we get to see what pick is going to fill the gap.
Yeah, I'd be curious if they will get another pick for Leper. I think Shiv makes a lot of sense. It's kind of what I was expecting to see. They gave that up last time, as well as Holiday. Obviously, Holiday's not pickable right now, but I like this a lot more because, having I don't want to see kind of FPS Lounge without like a pretty solid frontliner, and without Billy, Shiv is a good equalizer. I do wonder if we'll see a Silver on FPS Lounge, if they're going to value that, or if melee creeps are going to value that, because it seems like it's kind of become undervalued now.
It wasn't that impressive for Lord NM last game, so I think I could see both teams maybe shying away from it. Didn't feel like we saw many like big silver ults. There were some decent trades in the mid game, but for the most part, I feel like I'd rather have maybe an Abrams in the same slot.
Jake, do we think FPS Lounge maybe takes down the Paradox here in the mid-stage bans? Because I kind of look at it, when you want pick heroes, you're not going to be able to split the Paradox and Holiday this time around. Melee creeps, they get first pick at mid-stage bans. The Paradox is very much available for them.
I'm sad.
It would be risky, because then you would wind up, like if melee creeps go Bebop, you'd wind up completely without a pick hero in the pool. So it'll be Viscous and Drifter on the bans. We'll see what melee creeps go for here. I wouldn't be surprised to see Paradox and Bebop kind of go next, basically, to maybe each team. Since I do think having some kind of pick off is nice, but melee creeps say you can have your pick of the litter in the pick. We're going to lock in Venator again. And in fairness, this was the absolute win con for them. Great lane out of John, snowballed the game, dominant soul count from him all game long, and that was able to get them the finish in that game one. So hard to disagree with locking in that hero for him a second time.
So Dan, they lock in the Venator for John, but now I kind of wonder, we're talking about the idea of taking away pick heroes. Bebop gets picked. We've seen double pick before today. Does this end up as a Bebop Paradox angle for FPS Lounge?
It certainly could be. I think Xeno was so good on the Paradox. It would be kind of interesting to see, but I do really love Bebop, especially against Venator, because I don't know. Whenever I play Bebop, I feel like he's so easy to like hook, because he's so like fat. Like Venator,
he's big
like he's chunky. He's a chunky boy. So I love the Bebop pick here. I think it's going to really help FPS Lounge to get more pick opportunities. And Lash, I mean, we don't get to see Lash too much anymore, and I feel like we're going to see probably an Ido Lash. I think that makes sense.
Jake, it's a lore-approved matchup. Bebop comes in on one side, and Melee Creep says, you know what? We got to go for the Lash.
Tough matchup, though, I think, for Lash. They do grab the Paradox as the final pick on Melee Creeps. I mean, I do think that build from Xeno last game was pretty sick in terms of the team fight and the wave clear. Really hard to challenge into mid-boss with that much AoE disruption on the floor. But FPS Lounge now, I think they've got a pretty well-rounded roster of 5. Let's see what the final pick of the draft is for them to finish them off. It'll be the Viper. Okay. Getting a little spicy here with the last pick. Trying to bring some of that crazy gun damage burst. I do think the Viper ult, fantastic into Lash. I mean, the Bola is one of the most reliable ways to cancel the Lash ult. Even somebody like Infernus or Billy, who kind of want to jump into the thick of the fight and force an engagement to go quick, the Bola can slow you down enough where you kind of reset the fight more comfortably for FPS Lounge.
Now, the interesting thing to me, Dan, as I look at it, is I'm just wondering, what's the Lord NM hero going to be? If it was Silver, we would be able to instantly lock it in. But you think about who plays what on Melee Creeps. You could have an angle where it's Sai on the Paradox. You could have an angle if you're going roll by roll, it would be the Ido on the Paradox. Also, Ido has played a lot of Lash in recent times. Like, I'm kind of wondering,
Billy seems like the most likely, no? Like,
I think Lord M plays Lash, and then Ido plays Calico, and Saya plays Paradox, would be my guess.
I think Lord M is going to be in one of Calico, Lash, Paradox. I mean, the Billy could be a thing, given the past. I guess we'll see. Where is that?
It's the most similar to Silver for me is like the Billy. You know, like if you're gonna play a frontliner, bait the engagements. You know, I feels like a similar role. I also feel like it feels like Ido with you know his real role in this team being so movement focused. It's hard to imagine him not being on Lash. At least for me, this game. I mean, we'll see. I think it's a good shout though that Paradox could be a very real option. Calico as well. A lot of flexibility, of course, on this roster. Also curious where Saya ends up in the lineup. I think for him, maybe the Paradox also feels pretty likely. That's an OG comfort pick for Saya.
Yeah, I mean, for Saya, I think it's actually one of two things. Either Saya Paradox, or you think about some of the other things that Saya has played in recent times. Saya had the stretch where you were seeing Saya on the Abrams all the time. So, Saya like kind of flexes like, a little bit of support, a little bit of pick, and sometimes a bit of frontline. So, the combination of what melee creeps actually comes out on and who's playing what, to me, is pretty interesting. But I'm going to shift gears a little bit, more broad spectrum in regards to what to expect team versus team. Face value here, Dan, you're looking at the two teams. Which one do you favor more?
Okay. This is actually really interesting. On the face of it, I want to say, I'm going to go my heart. I feel like FPS Lounge, they picked the Viper. I kind of like what they're cooking with this. I think, Pocket has had some pretty underwhelming showings, but I don't think that's down to Pocket being bad either. I think we were talking about that earlier. I'm going to go for FPS Lounge, even though I think there's very more logical of an argument to be made for melee creeps this roster.
Jake, where are you landing?
I'm a big fan of the Doorman. I feel like for these teams at the very cutting edge of the game, like really pushing what's possible in team play, I think the Doorman just gives a little too much. And I think Lomain, for me, has been one of the best. I think he was one of the players to really bring the new style of Doorman to the forefront of the metagame. And I feel like he's a heck of a standard bearer to be putting this hero in his hands, letting his individual skill really shine on the server. Besides that, Bebop, Viper, I think they do have a lot of interesting playmaking, and melee creeps, they feel very invested into like big 6-on-6 major team fights where these AoE ultimates are going to get huge value. And I just don't know that that's the way the game is played right now, with all these different split objectives with Earn and split pushing walkers and unstable rifts all happening at once at times.
All right, well, the stage is set. Is this going to be the final map, or do we have maximum deadlock here today between EU and NA? FPS Lounge, they want this to go to distance. We'll see if they have what it takes. On the mic, it's going to be Jake and DDK. Jake, the mic is yours.
All right. And as we get into this, let's take a look at the lanes, the hero picks. Going to be an interesting one. I think for both teams, they have options about who plays what. This will be an interesting moment to see, where the real preferences lie.
Well, we get a pause, because why not?
Little audio bug, get it sorted out right quick. Looks like the R's are out. And interesting. Okay, it'll be Lomain on the Bebop again, reprising his role from the Challenger Rats, and actually Xeno on the Doorman. Pretty interesting. Xeno, though, has impressed me today. Like, really, on the Paradox, everything he's played, I feel like he's risen really alongside this team to be one of the real key members. And that's not an easy thing to do in this squad in particular. Nice little bait from Leffa on that initial trade. Gets a 2-man suitcase and gets away with the souls.
I think it's nice also to see the Lash pick, just because I think this is more comfort for Lord and them, and I think that might have something to do with the pickup as well. Because Lash isn't as commonly seen, so we'll see how it ends up panning out in terms of performance. But I think it might just end up being better than Silver just for that very fact of comfort pick. And League on the Infernus, League being the stand-in here for Dew. Definitely a Dew hero, something you mentioned, the crossover in the hero pool, and I think for League, I'm sure he's gonna have a great performance here on Infernus. Infernus being so strong as well. So I think again on paper, I do think melee creeps have a very strong roster here. I feel like the way that the picks are kind of playing into the hero pools as well for melee creeps is really strong. And I think for FPS Lounge, I feel like we're going to need to see some tempo from them, especially with the Viper, trying to drill down those objectives.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see Average now. A little bit more of a high eco role for him on the Lady Geist. I do like DMB playing some of these more tempo-oriented carries, though. I feel like when he's able to get into the action a little bit more, and you feel like you see the calling, the team play from him, I do think that's one of his strengths as a player. contest, of course, always going to be key to challenge for that first small camp. Seems like it went about 50-50 in this lane.
And in terms of the lane matchups here, I'm trying to work out myself where I expect that tempo to come from, like who's going to be the team that gets the advantage with respect to that. And, you know, I think often, you know, when you look at a Bebop Viper lane, that's actually quite a deadly lane because if you get a hook, you know, you get the poison on the target. You know, there's just a lot of setup potential there for burst damage. And in addition to that, you know, Bebop as well with the Viper can really, I think, have a lot of potential to take down a Guardian pretty quick. Eric gets some Furnace Billy, which is very strong in its own right. So I'm curious what your take is there, Jake.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Lord and M, by the way, really struggling in the Lash lane here. I mean, every dagger that hits from Shiv starts to... and he gets a re-up right at the last... I think he's dead. It's super close. No, I think he's going to take out. Last tick, it'll finish him. Wow. Poppers gets the reset on the dagger, I think, on the last tick of the first dagger. So, literally perfect daggers there out of Shiv. That's normally not such a kill threat in lane on Shiv, and that is the dream start, especially for the pocket lane, who I think may be able to show what's really possible in the hero with a start like that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I was thinking, oh, did he greed the headshot booster? You know, having no regen, but I'm like, actually, I think he just got outplayed with you know, just such a nice execution coming in, especially from Poppers, like you say. So rough start for sure for Lord and M, but I'm sure it's not going to deter him too much. You get some movement there. You know, the box is spawning at 3 minutes these days. I remember the days when it spawned at 2 minutes.
A little bit more time of shooting enemy heroes, a little bit less time shooting crates. Nice second hook, follow up on a league. I don't know if he has a flame dash. Who's already hooked earlier on in this lane. Does just barely get the dash of time and cancels it for a sick parry, but it's not enough. DMB finishes the job. Low main slips away for now. And even a little bit of a HP tax put onto Fishcake here. I mean, that dash cancel into parry on low main was insane, but it's still not enough to get out.
All right, so some box running there as well from Saya. We can see Lord and M trying to get some pressure on, trying to get some revenge maybe. And with that headshot booster, you know, you do get a lot of poke pressure, but oh wow, was that a parry?
Yeah.
Just stunned.
And it's usually these moments just after the kill happens in the lane where you feel like the comeback is more doable. Ooh, sneaks a heavy in there. Greedy Lord NM, but he gets away with it. Maybe will he get away with his life, though? Has gone for a very heavy damage build here. And the Slice and Dice Spirit Resist Shred is pretty nice in the pocket lane, right? I mean, you have amazing Spirit damage follow-up even this early in the game. And Saya even going to rotate over and maybe get a lane swap here because they recognize this lane is just not going well for Lord NM's Lash. A hero that it feels like if you don't snowball, you become a bit of an ulti bot, and that doesn't feel good on Lash right now. I think you need to be a threat outside of just the ulti.
Yeah, totally agree on that one. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things to be concerned about, especially because, you know, it's not a counterspell by, I think, has some good value, especially for the concussive combustion. I think you see Infernus's prioritize the concussive combustion more than in the past as well. So good to have an easy way to deal with that.
A little bit of a challenge here in the side lane. Saya, big damage down to Poppers, getting run down under the tower. And that'll be a finish. Ido picks that one up. Saya rotates into this lane and already changes the fate of melee creeps. Maybe looking for more even, and a swap comes in. Yeah, Lefa's really deep on the lane and pulled into a bad position by Saya's swap. What an impact here from melee creeps, salvaging what was a pretty brutal lane and turning it back in their way.
That was a swap that came online, I think, with like the last second. You know, the skill came online, and we saw very quick fingers there to skill it up and so then connect it. So very unfortunate timing for Lefa though. Oh my god, we've got parries all over the place.
Parry still has HP swap, but the other players in the lane are low. I mean, it's not an easy swap target in, and Lord M's happy to make these trades. Ido even has come in and joined this fight using some of that early rotation power, and the kills keep flowing in for melee creeps, but overall the soul lead still decisively in favor of FPS Lounge. So these kill crates are kind of cutting the losses of melee creeps, but they come at a cost. I mean, the economy is still a little bit more efficient for FPS Lounge in this game.
All right, so 7 minutes in now. Doesn't feel like there's a clear winner in any of these lanes. We look at the health on the Guardians. I mean, of course, that right side Guardian did go down for melee creeps, so playing a little bit behind in that respect. See if they can get a counter Guardian, but it looks like the pressure is just really going against them largely here.
Dive coming in now. Xeno's here. Okay. Getting active and a lot of tower pressure to come in. Even a doorman ult locks away Ido. That frees up all 3 players here of FPS Lounge. Just beam down this first Guardian here. Ido is going to slip away. Surely with the ultimate, he'll be just fine, but the damage is done. Walker down, or Top Walker down. Guardian down, and a lot of souls into Lefa's pocket. Literally and figuratively as he goes. I mean, he might go straight for the cult sack here. This could be really efficient timing for him.
A good equalizer too for melee creeps and taking down the Guardian on the right lane as well. And now all the Guardians starting to fall. Mid Guardian at risk for melee creeps as the chase down continues. A good catch here onto Lomain. Can't escape that one. Bebop will die. And that gives us some good control here for melee creeps. Looking to get some significant damage, maybe even just outright take down this Guardian, but in comes some defensive potential. In fact, 3 players will actually turn up to defend this mid lane for FPS Lounge. So you're going to be cautious. Melee creeps back away from that one. And in fact, their tower now at heavy risk. That's going to get deleted as the Sinners come up.
Yeah, losing your mid Guardian right when Sinners spawn. Kind of scary. Puts those objectives now into serious relief. Bebop's going to claim this center here on the enemy side of the map. I think DMB did the same on the opposite lane. They're going to try and get a counter kill on this Bebop. Maybe snatch the bag that he's holding away from him. Venator was thinking about coming into that, but maybe coming too close to this pocket lane. Inadvisable with Bebop in tow.
Let's take out Canico.
Yeah, a little contestation around these Sinners right now. Could be a good find here for melee creeps.
Great laser.
Get some catches. Very good laser indeed. Over the top, that hyper beam from Lomain is providing a very good covering fire. Good dodging though from Saya.
Yeah, but he's able to escape. Lash ult, good enough to grab Bebop, pull him back into the Lion's Den here. Pit of Vipers await him. Viper on the other team, though, is happily farming up a storm. Trades come in now. It's a 2-for-1 fight. FPS Lounge want to grab another kill back, fully equalize this one. Maybe they'll be able to find Fishcake on the retreat. That carbine shot slows down Doorman, but his Doorman's already looking for the next target. Lefa finishes off that kill, and Saya on very low HP. One more dagger would be deadly. That one misses. The bleed out is good.
Let's go to York.
Yeah, a lot of action here, skirmishing around these Sinners. And some of them still not taken. In the meantime, though, what's John doing? He's doing what John does, which is just farming that solo lane on the left side, picking up as much efficiency as he can. But now joining actually the fight, 2v2, actually caught Lomain there, as well as Xeno. And maybe more assistance coming from Fishcake.
John's in trouble. Does he have support coming out of the Baroness here? I mean, Billy's there to follow up in the team fight. Lash might even look to join into this. It's turning into a real brawl. John on slivers of HP. Eventually he's going to get run down, but there could be trades in this, and there's a lot of numbers around this mid lane. Everybody's looking to get engaged. Ooh, he's in trouble. Oh, that slice and dice hurts. Third knife, that'll be his end.
Losing a lot of Walker health now on the left side here for melee creeps. They've got 2 players down as well, so some chunks being taken as this mid-fight continues. And, okay, just... Whoa, the time bomb actually got caught there.
Got caught. Yeah, it doesn't really get full impact. Saya, ooh, HP is running really low average. Goes for the risky parry there. Kind of his only play in that moment. Saya will get that kill, but it cost him his life. And as the dust settles, Lefa picks up a 3-kill streak. He's going to pick up that gun spike on Pocket to speed the farm. And this could turn into a very scary Pocket game. I mean, Lefa has... The pretty much the dream start. Got Cultist online. He's doing well. Comes away from this mid-game skirmish with a ton of the kills. And Popper is going to be happy to dunk that urn and get 1,000 souls or so to himself.
Might just get a kill as well. They're going to get the cash onto League, although looks like League will be able to get out with the Flame Dash. So good pressure on the map here now for melee creeps. And we'll see what they can do. Another Rift is going to be opening up on that right side. It's the wave priority is, of course, with FPS Lounge. And will we see a trading off of this? Mid Guardian for FPS Lounge also still up at the moment. So that's some value to be had as well if melee creeps want to think about that.
It's an interesting decision. Play the macro or play the fight. DMB picks up a kill in this lane, which might make them more incentivized to look for the fight. And this vitality buff really paying dividends. Calico has already used the ultimate, getting run down, tries to dodge the dagger, but can't quite get it done. Poppers finds the bleed out. Billy's coming into this one too, but I'm not convinced he's going to be able to defeat this Shiv and Viper. That lethal poison really bites into Fishcake's HP. DMB will finish that kill, and the Viper now has catapulted ahead of the rest of the game here. 14,000 souls for DMB, and maybe he's not done just yet.
All right, well, so much pressure on this right side. You can see now the retreat comes through for FPS Lounge. They fan out. Actually getting kind of scarily ahead here. Managing to get a 10k lead, and it's actually quite terrifying that it's DMB on the Viper on 14k. Like, Viper's nasty. So we'll see how that actually impacts the game. What options Melee Creeps will be able to use to kind of shut down DMB if he gets too out of hands. And like you say, Left is having a better start of things here as well. And right now the map is under control with FPS Lounge looking to roam. The pick options though with low main is also always very scary.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, anytime you leave DMB alone in the side lane, it's a pretty scary moment. This Viper is very heavy into the gun damage, can burn down these objectives post haste. You give her just a second to work. Could just even farm up some of these large camps. I mean, this is DMB is going to be very happy with the state of the game right now with the lead he has. Lash going to try and get in and change the narrative, but the lethal poison comes in. The hook is there. Backed up by the buddies. Goes down before the ult can even proc. Big fight for Lomade, who pops the laser now, trying to bring some covering fire into this fight because League, Ido are desperately trying to shut down this Viper. 666 is the bag to be claimed here. Mark of the Beast, the cat will have it this time.
I see the doorman.
Oh, there we go. There's some challenge here on mid as well. This fight continues to try to get that Guardian down. Well, the hook actually is going to be missing and might not be able to catch the cat or catch Infernus Flame Dash. Hard to chase that one down. And got to be careful not to go too far. And in the meantime, actually doing a good job, FPS Lounge, protecting the mid Guardian. Still keeping it up. 14 minutes in, and that Guardian is standing pretty strong at this point.
Little assets to be snatched away here by Lash.
Sneaky.
Pirates a couple souls, but it's been a really rough game for Lord MM here.
Yeah.
Kind of struggled in the lane on the Lash. Decent recovery in the mid game, but yeah, the eco is not in his favor. So it really feels like, I mean, the ultimate is always going to be nice on Lash, but feels like to really take this character to the next level, you need to be able to threaten with the Flog and the Ground Strike to be able to maybe bring in some of those kills without even committing the ult. And especially in this game, it's a pretty tough Lash game. I feel like up against Bebop, I never feel too good having a Lash on my team. Oh my god, that ear to meaty hurts. John picks up a kill, so standard bearer here for Melee Creeps. Living up to his name.
The tyrant will be usurped.
It's a pretty close game right now. Although, of course, FPS Lounge with that edge. Good catch with the hook. Obviously, very, very low on HP.
Wait, no way Lomain lives? No way?
It looks like he's going to survive.
Oh my god. How does he live? If I were League, I'd be tilted too. I thought for sure. Maybe the Headhunter proc came in, just give him barely enough heal. Survive. He's going to be chilling in that Veil for a hot second with Fortitude, but he's going to be very happy to escape that tangle with Infernus with his life. Now a rundown being attempted on Poppers, who throws an execute back in. It's not quite enough, but the kill comes in just in time. He gets the Healbane lifesteal, healing rate as well. But hold on, League elsewhere. Finds DMB, this Viper, up to an extremely hot start, but a couple bad deaths for him.
Looking to try to actually roll this into another kill into the Calico as well. Brave both stuff there with the shield, but the mid Guardian, or rather Walker, getting picked off there from FPS Lounge. That's a steal.
Yeah, they give us some kills elsewhere on the map because of the resources deployed from the Melee Creeps, but that's a big one for Average to find, especially when you're able to drop it down first. Sidewalker going to be the trade attempted, but Average is here to get into this fight too. Billy's already at half HP, sticks around enough for the kill, but will it cost him his life? Also holding on to the urn, so a double prize if you're able to run down this Billy. For now, though, maybe the mobility good enough to get him away. They instead change targets, trying to run down the Lash, but also a pretty brutal hero to chase down in a contested moment.
And then grabbed by Fishcake. Definitely, I think the player that needs it the most right now. Definitely a little bit behind the pressure, though. Coming in from FPS Lounge, really trying to, leverage the advantage. Although, as I say, advantage, this soul advantage isn't as great as you might think. It's been recovered somewhat. And League seems like he might be playing a very crucial role in this game, making himself very powerful. We've seen, I think, in recent EU matches too, how defining an Infernus can be on the game. So League looking to have that performance.
I see Calico.
Double's being stolen here. Ido is going to think about dealing with it. League also posturing to potentially get into a fight here. FPS Lounge think better of their greed, though, and decide to back off instead of committing. I mean, there's too many Melee Groups players missing on the map. Too much threat of a big team fight going against you. And
Let's go blue.
we're at 17 minutes. The damage is real. FPS Lounge want to learn their lesson. I mean, they had this kind of small advantage a couple times in the previous match.
Headed to green.
I'm trying maybe get some kind of a threatening trade onto Ido's Calico, but I mean, I was just holding on to the ultimate. He's at no risk.
So much control over the map right now for FPS Lounge with all these lanes quite pushed. Also invading the enemy jungle as well, trying to get that solo advantage, stacking up in their favor. And some shenanigans in mid. Got to be careful. There's the Baroness coming on through as well, looking to try to set up this fight. Xeno backing away a little bit. Kind of a dodgy situation. John very weak though. Iridomini has been popped, but he's very, very low.
There's so many low targets. They'd be happy just to escape with their lives. Billy might just be the sacrificial lamb, not the goat today. DMB slips in for that kill, but Lord and them also stuck around. He's not going to be living long for this world. Great kills for DMB, and DMB thinking about going straight to the mid boss. I mean, Viper has one of the best DPS for a carry at this moment in the game. Can be very efficient shooting this mid boss, and with extra players coming in, they are going to double down on this. Melee Creeps, none of the 3 living players have an ultimate. I don't know that they can contest this, but you feel like you almost have to at this level of play.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's no tools at all to do anything about this. The question is, how much can FPS Lounge gain from these rejuve crystals? I mean, it feels like it could be an insane lead that they could generate from this. They were already, I think, outplaying Melee Creeps slightly on the macro and just the overall team fight. So this is a huge problem right now because you can't imagine that Melee Creeps are going to want to take fights against the rejuves.
I mean, there is some comeback resist here in this rift, but oh man, League is just getting battered by these call bells, and he's the only one playing in the pit. Now Lord and M comes in to try and bail out this Infernus, get him out of trouble, but Infernus under real pressure now. Low main beaming over the top, making this so awkward for Melee Creeps to come into the fight. Does get ground struck down to the low ground, but in the end, you just cannot bring the fight. Melee Creeps don't have the resources to keep this one going, and FPS Lounge is going to take these men in black and slam their heads into this sidewalker, and I don't know that Melee Creeps have much to say about it. No lash hold available here.
Yeah, it's so painful. Very difficult part of the game for Melee Creeps. They've got to figure out how do they give away as little an advantage as possible. They could try to...
Affliction was canceled there. It looked like it went off, but in fact it didn't. So Lefa still has the ultimate. A lot of low players in FPS Lounge and won't necessarily be a free fight. One rejuve consumed, second now used. There's still a lot of low targets. This could be an opportunity for Melee Creeps, but they're still scared of the threat of the player advantage. Lord and M goes down, but that's also the final rejuve off the table. I think FPS Lounge don't want to overplay their hand here. They're still being aggressive, but I think Melee Creeps are going to look for the fight if they go any deeper.
Yeah, very, very close situation. I mean, there is certainly a huge argument to be made for Melee Creeps to kind of almost try to take the big risk for it, but...
It's carded as well. It looked like such a good opportunity for Lead to get in and pick off some of these low HP players, but caught in the Baroness. It's going to be in a tough spot. Does get the concussive off just as he comes out of the Baroness. Really nice play, actually. That blocks any follow-up from low main, who would love to have finished off that kill. So well played from League on the Infernus. Going to get out of that potentially sticky situation.
Absolutely crucial as well. I think, again, League is really important in the chances here for Melee Creeps. I think John doing a decent job trying to stay competitive on the farm, but can't just be up to John, especially when the pressure is so heavily against Melee Creeps at this point in the time. Not with a lot of map control to work with, so not much on the map feels safe at the moment, but might be able to find something in League. Close to Viper in pocket. Got to be really careful. Ebola could be the death of you.
Yeah, for MLC, it's a tenuous moment in the game. Just enough of an advantage now where you start to feel it here in these team fights. Even a gun buff up for DMB's Viper. Probably be pretty content to just farm it up given the map control advantage. But this is we've been in this place before, Dan, and FPS Lounge couldn't close it out, couldn't continue to develop their lead. See if things change this time. A laser force out of low main. Not the most valuable ultimate. Yeah, happy to throw that out speculatively to just zone away pesky Calico.
Again, this is really one of those moments where you can really tell the great teams. It's when you're behind and you find ways to limit the opportunity for the opponents to to get further ahead, or to slow them down as much as possible, and to figure out what are the right risks to commit heavily into that can kind of keep you in the game. And that's some of the work there right now Melee Creeps have to figure out. So looks like FPS Lounge are coming for them, though. Going for the invade. There's a catch.
Great find here for low main, and then a follow-up comes in as well. Catches the lash after the grapple away. No objectives really to be claimed here in the mid. And it did bring a lot of players for that kill, so it's not really the most valuable kill to find, given the number of players splitting the souls on the side of FPS Lounge. But they're able to clear up a couple of jungle camps off the back of it, probably making this worth it in the end. Especially if they can secure this doubles. And with Doorman, feels pretty easy, pretty comfortable with the ability to just slip away out of that door if things go wrong.
Again, the invades. They've been very effective, FPS Lounge, making sure to steal whatever they can. Especially now that they removed the jump pads on the rooftops by the Sinners. Having the doors as utility to essentially attack into the enemy Sinners is really powerful.
DMB has definitely been more defensively minded with the last few buys now. Ready now to expect a lot of focus fire in the team fights. Wouldn't mind seeing some more counter spells this game. The side of FPS Lounge, both Infernus ult and Lash ult. Pretty easy skills to counterspell. Even the Calico last hit or Calico's burst can kind of be blocked by counterspell if you see it coming. So expect to see that to be a popular item this game.
Big Chain Gang coming on through to try to get this engagement going here. Nice catch on the poppers. Loading them down as well. So 1 for 1.
Oh, it's going to go full team fight here. Big shotgun slams DMB, but he just barely slips around the corner now. Running away. Affliction is on to 2. Some key members, Saya and Ido, both probably a little bit scared to stay committed in this fight. Infernus, desperate for the finish on Viper, will find it. Billy put him to the Baroness, but Melee Creep's still fighting. It's 4v4 now. Health swap is out. Infernus, concussive combustion doesn't hit anybody, and the chase down is good. Low main will finish that kill. 2 for 3, but once again, a winning trade for FPS Lounge. Not afraid, rather, to get their hands dirty in this game.
Yeah, very unfortunate for League there. That's concussive combustion. Maybe doesn't have it all the way leveled yet for that extra 10 meters. Get that extra range. And the catch here now onto Fishcake. Problematic. It can't get away from the Bebop. And stuck in the corner. Finished off. And it just doesn't feel like there's many options right now against FPS Lounge. And mid-boss is coming up very soon here as well. Just dodging that. Getting a haircut.
Yeah, Bebop, not one I'd trust to give me a haircut with that hand. As FPS Lounge just hunting and pecking around the edges. Healing tempos to buy for Average, who I actually kind of like this buy on Geist. Gives you a lot of attack speed, which is often what you're hurting for, and makes you ridiculously sustainable. Looks like Leva with some water spill. Okay. See if we can get that rectified. What's the technical limit on that, Dan?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. Oh, man. Too many keyboard problems today.
Hopefully he didn't spill it on his keyboard, man. Like, I don't know if we could take that kind of a tragedy. Seems like Leva's okay.
Okay. Well, 25 minutes in, and the deficit now is starting to be... It's just really starting to be a big problem for Melee Creeps. Again, mid-boss is coming up. You can only imagine that FPS Lounge are going to be looking to try to start that fight.
Nice
catch on to low main, though. This could be a great way to start things off.
He is getting deleted here. Counterspell something, but there are just way too many skills coming in. FPS Lounge have been really sharp on the punishes as of late. Nice ultimate from Ido just to dodge that killing blow. Would have certainly taken his life there. Big bolus, so that AoE stuns everybody. Sets up for a clean follow-up here. Here comes the Affliction onto 2. Slaya instantly down, but League not able to restore his HP in this fight. It's going to be pretty tough for Infernus still. As the dust settles to 2-1 and a big lash. Lord and M finally getting active in this game. Going to find the instant kill onto Zeno. Now turning his attention on to Average, the heal tempo. Keeping this guy's healthy, but with Lash deep over the top. Potentially a scary fight to stick around for too long in, but calls the bluff here. Says he can take this 1v1 against Lord and M with a lot of confidence, especially with the sustain and the Geist kid. And Lord and M has to just run for the hills now. John finally finishes a kill, but DMB maybe did enough damage to prevent anyone from coming in to assist. Average ends up winning this 1v1. Lefa even claims a kill on an additional double. Turns into a team wipe out of nowhere. A good fight it looked like for Melee Creeps, and FPS Lounge bring the hammer down, bringing every player in and coming in with a 6K.
Very unfortunate if they manage to keep some of those players alive. You know, maybe there's a world where this mid boss doesn't go to FPS Lounge. In fact, it felt like there was a world where it could have gone to Melee Creeps, but yeah, maybe the best chance gone now for Melee Creeps to get back into this second map.
The mid wave is so bad. There's no chance to contest. Desperate Giga long range swap from Saya. If he had max swap, that actually could have gone well, but I think it just ever so slightly missed. And this pocket is getting a little bit scary right now. What's the next buy? I mean, it kind of, at this point, the world's your oyster on pocket. He goes mag leap and greater expansion, so he's going to be very mobile, very consistent at connecting some of these skills. And with Spirit Burn online, I feel like that's the item that really takes pocket to the next level. An uncontested cap on this rift may just lead straight into a Walker Siege. I don't see why not for FPS Lounge. I think they learned their lesson from last game. They need to close this one out when they have the chance.
Well, forcing the issue, forcing a response maybe, but there's no response I think that you can give against the 3 rejuves. You have maybe a DB is getting a little targeted at the moment.
Oh, he's behind him.
It's like everybody's on top of DMB.
I mean, he's going to get assassinated here, surely. Pops the unstop, tries to slip away. The bullet shot slows down both League and Ido. Might be enough. Viper needs to desperately run away, running towards his teammates. Leffa, if you chase this too hard, you could be walking into a very dangerous affliction. And I think wisely for Melee Creeps, they don't go deep, but maybe the damage has been done. They're already in enemy territory. The base is being sieged elsewhere. It's risky to even stick around in this fight. With Leffa lurking, looking for opportunities. Concussive Combustion is now out.
I see the door, man.
Yeah, very bad situation. I mean, it just feels like a wipe is waiting to happen. They might be able to get something done here. So there's one rejuve gone, but again, you can't escape from this situation. There's an affliction.
I mean, they're losing the base guards. Like, I don't know how I feel about this. And if it gets a 2-man affliction, he's going to clean them up here. He's happy to lose this rejuve. And even Leffa lives to tell the tale on this pocket. They were desperate to find at least one solid kill. They won't get even that. And what looked like a decent attempt here on the DMB goes wildly awry. One set of base guards already down. Average refuses to back off from the enemy side of the map here alongside Low May, and he's just threatening the base. They're able to get some kills elsewhere, and even a catch now onto Saya. A rare mistake from him. I think he may have been zip knocked there. I don't know how else he got a setup for this. Is on just 1 HP, any touch would be enough to bring down Saya. Fishcake trying to make space for the retreat of the Paradox. Actually, is just going to tank the death himself.
Yeah, just scaling into the base now. I think in Melee Creeps, they know it's over. The deficit's so huge. So really just doing whatever they can. And I mean, this has been a great game from FPS Lounge from start to finish. They've crushed it. I think, you know, a lot to be said for the early laning phase. You know, you talked about how we're sort of in the laning meta at the moment, and I mean, there's just no question that FPS Lounge were able to get the lead started there for them, and especially with DMB coming away with an insanely strong start as well as Leffa, it was just so hard for a recovery to be made for Melee Creeps.
Oh man, Average about to hit a giant buy. Maybe he could buy Spell Slinger plus some 3K upgrade here. And maybe he's going to go for the double 6K Self Spirit Shielding here. Geist is about to hit a crazy power peak. 43K on fire for Average. Really starting to light things up on Geist. Ido in with the ultimate, trying to find some kill. DMB is super low. A little bit of an early melee. Be forgiven for slipping up on the timing this late in the game, but a big parry comes in. Needs a hook to get out to safely. Well picked from Lord and M to get Average back to a comfortable position, but this fight is maybe the best chance Melee Creeps have had in a while to maybe get some kills back the other way.
Yeah, full retreat mode here for FPS Lounge to try to regroup. Make sure they don't allow anything weird to happen. And lots of escape tools here so that they are able to reset. And unfortunately for Melee Creeps, unable to convert anything of major value from that. Uncollected by Leffa as well. And there's that buy. So you get Leech comes in for Average. I don't know if he picked up something else as well. Maybe he does not have enough for another.
He's waiting for the next 6K. Wouldn't mind. I mean, I feel like Spellslinger is always the buy. I think when I see on Geist, it's like when you feel like you have just enough space to get away with it, it's so threatening. But I also don't mind that Average is just going ridiculously tanky. Same story for DMB. I mean, feels like the last, what, 10,000 souls he's invested have pretty much all been in Vitality items. And it's made this Viper really slippery, really hard to pin down. Even when the catch seems good, it's like Metal Skin, Bola. There's a lot of ways for Viper to play her way out of these tough spots, and it will be the Spellslinger bot. Average kind of goes all in here, sells Cultist. This is an opportunity now to potentially just end the game with a big power spike. The next mid boss crucial for melee creeps to find a fight. But with low main lurking, you may not even get the fight. You might just get picked off, and woo, that is too close for comfort for Billy in that spot.
Yeah, staying as a pack at the moment, FPS Lounge, making sure they can't get caught off. They can respond quickly to any pick attempts. Slowly constricting the map.
Oh, this doorman is so devastating. I mean, he's just running around with reckless abandon. If anything goes wrong, he's just going to door himself away. And anytime someone peeks their head out, they tank a call bell, a spirit burn, and drops a third of their health off. Escalating the buy now for Leffa, and a spirit burn on for him. He's going to be able to keep that one proc pretty well. Every time low main steps up, I kind of hold my breath for melee creeps. It could be one pick leads to the finish here. Mid boss spawning in 40 seconds.
Map is just completely dominated by FPS Lounge here, and I mean melee creeps. That's just. I mean, Sai got a buff. He actually got a gun buff. I mean, that's pretty. Honestly, more than expected.
I mean, denying it from average and DMB, I think is the real impact there, right? Like, these are heroes you really do not want to give a gun buff to. I think especially Geist is a really great user of the gun buff. Loves everything about it, the mag size, the fire rate. Ultimate's available for both sides, though. I think this is, both teams know this next team fight could mean everything. I feel like FPS Lounge, having thrown a couple leads in the last game, are going to be very aware that melee creeps are down, but they are not out of this just yet. But a 50k soul lead, Dan. It's starting to get to that turn to John. Oh, John? He's just gone. Where did he go? Evaporated by DMB's damage. The Viper crushes the enemy carrier, and that's just the game, Dan. Like how do you fight now? 3 players going to be off the field. The bullet to come in. Fishcake going to drop. And now FPS Lounge can do both mid-boss and Shrine simultaneously if they so desire.
Yeah, maybe they just go for game here. I mean, they have so much an advantage. 60k lead, more than that actually. And I mean, Lord and M with the 2 left. Hello, okay.
So clean. Lashel. E-shift is going to block the follow-up on a low main, but there's just no damage here. I mean, Lord and M tries to bail out League, maybe understandably given how dire the game is, but with only 2 players standing, there's no hope for a genuine team fight to go against FPS Lounge. And with those 2 long spawns, I think you stay for the finish here. FPS Lounge with a statement victory in game 2. Preemptive, aggressive GG out of average. Okay, bro.
Well, looks like we're getting into a 1-1.
In fairness, it is completely over. Melee Creep's not even going to spawn in time to get out into the Patron Pit. Really well executed, and what a turnaround from a game 1 that slipped through your fingers. A much firmer grasp on the series now for FPS Lounge as we go to game 3 with a 1-1 scoreline.
Well, we knew it could be a thing, that today could be the day of maximum deadlock, and once more it is back-to-back weeks, 8 maps followed by 8 maps. NA going the distance, same as EU. And this time around, though, Dan, this game was a little bit more definitive. Not a back-and-forth sine wave, but instead, FPS Lounge coming out with a pretty decisive victory.
Yeah. I mean, just again, start to finish, looked really great. Never gave up the advantage, and it really started out with that laning phase. And it feels like the Viper pick was amazing, especially I think combining with Bebop in lane seemed very potent. And we saw that again. Lord and M really did have to struggle desperately in the early lane, and I think having impact was kind of tough on Lash. And I think it's unfortunate because Lord and M is a good Lash player, but I think it shows why people are not picking Lash. Without Lash is not really valued right now in the current meta, and hasn't been for a while. So even if though it's a comfort pick for Lord and M, just a bad lane style where you had to lane swap, it just really was kind of heartbreaking to see.
Jake, we were doing a lot of speculation, wondering, okay, who's going to be playing what based on this Melee Creeps draft. And, based on what we got, were you happy for Melee Creeps in terms of who they play on what? Or, if you were sitting here as a coach in the sky, would you have made some alterations?
I mean, it's hard to disagree with the picks they ended up going with. I feel like Saya had a really big game on the Paradox. Ida was completely solid on the Calico as well. And then, of course, I mean, there's really no question about League's Infernus. This is such a solid comfort pick for him, and especially for a sub, you really don't want him to be, trying to do anything too crazy with the picks. I think what this came down to is honestly some really big games, like low main on the Bebop kind of crushed Lord and M in a lot of these moments. You could say the same about Poppers on the Shiv. I feel like he was really clean, a lot of early game kills, and the dominance in that early lane really did set the tone for the series. But average on the Geist, it's great to see him back on a high farm role because he just handles it so well. It feels like he just very rarely makes mistakes, plays a very clean late game here, very tanky, and still able to bring a lot of damage into the fights.
You know, Dan, it's kind of interesting, and we're reacting to the game. One thing you were looking at that, I was thinking the same, is that, last week we had Fishcake come out and have an enormous game on Viper, and again here, DMB seemingly making Viper look extremely good. And all I can think of here is that, we've had multiple instances recently of Viper taking over games and, having big moments. I just wonder, is this hero not only underpicked, but when Viper is picked, arguably under prioritized in the draft, because usually you can pick up a Viper basically at the very end.
Yeah, it seems that way. I think there's a definite argument to be worried about the Viper, and I think especially with certain combinations, because Viper has so much utility with the Bola to disrupt other ultimates and also play spoiler to big objective fights. So there's that utility there, but also like setting up kills too. You can kind of get some pick with it. I mean, one of the weaknesses of Viper obviously is the health pool can be kind of squishy if you get locked down, but that didn't really seem to be an issue at all for DMB in this game, and I don't think Vipers tend to run into that issue, and I don't think it seems to create an argument that that's so bad that you would not take all of the benefits that seem to be evident.
So Jake, here's your chance to either cast Condemnation or a little bit of Deflection. You did mention that it was a difficult game for Lord NM, and looking at the stat line here, I mean, the eye test checks out. It was a 1-11 game for Lord NM. Obviously, everyone's going to have rough games from time to time, but, you mentioned things falling apart in the lane phase. Was there a definitive moment, or is it just, everything was just a bad situation from the get-go?
I mean, Popper's getting that kill on him early was crazy. Like the getting the dagger refresh, I think on the last tick of the first dagger, and the second dagger, again, last tick is what kills him. I mean, that is honestly painful, but I feel like that's more credit to Poppers and his individual skill than something I'd criticize Lord NM for. I do feel like, though, this game is a pretty rough Lash game. I mean, you've got Bola from Viper and you've got Hook from Bebop. Both give you huge issues on Lash, locking down your mobility. And that's before even mentioning, the doorman. So no easy targets on the other side. Pocket can kind of suitcase a lot of your damage as it comes in. And speaking of Pocket, I feel like this is the Pocket game we've kind of been promised in the meta, where, 10, 2, and 15, Leffa getting that big cleanup in the huge team fight around the middle lane that leads into the mid boss that kind of eventually begins the snowball to melee creeps defeat. I feel like Leffa piloted it really well, and we see what Pocket can do with just a little bit of a stronger early laning phase.
Dan, anything catching your eye here on the score screen before we move on and get ready for the final map of the day, the 8th map of the day in the 3rd map of this series?
Not so much. Just I want to say that those call bells were very annoying, and honestly, yeah, you probably got a ban doorman, but that's the problem, right? You ban a doorman, you let the mirage in, it's just painful.
All right, well, this is Night Shift 46, and I gotta tell you, we're living up to the name. It is getting late if you're on the East Coast. We are 20 minutes from midnight, but we know everyone's gonna stay around all the same. The finale to Shift 46 takes place right after this. It has been a ride today. Shout outs to all of those who have been with us from the beginning. A long day. We started at 3 o'clock my time. It's nearly 11, about to be midnight on the East Coast. ZP here with Jake and Dan. And gentlemen, this has been a ride. Maximum Deadlock here today. North America going to 3. And Jake, as FPS Lounge strikes back, what do we think we could see different in this final draft now both teams have seen each other's strengths?
Ooh, that's gonna be an interesting question. I do expect the holiday ban to come back again. I think that felt really successful in this game too. I wonder if there's maybe a thought to change up with Pocket having such a strong game, maybe attacking something like the Shiv from Poppers that was really well piloted in the last. Those would be maybe 2 ways I would start to think about this for melee creeps, but I don't think there's any easy road to home. Like melee, or rather FPS Lounge have a lot of strength on a lot of heroes, so you shift a ban away from one character, you put it somewhere else, well, then there's just going to be another threat popping up.
Dan, this just gave me a thought here with Pocket going a little bit later in the last draft, and maybe both teams saying, oh, it can be let forward. You talk about comfort picks, and Ido may have looked really good on the holiday back in game 1, but you know what Ido historically looks even better on? The Pocket.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's definitely an option. The thing that's curious to me is where Lord NM goes, because I think he's had the most lack of comfort so far, and I think that's been interesting because we just got the silver versus the lash, so I'm curious how that will actually play out. And also whether Viper fits in all of this now, because that, you've now unleashed this Viper pick that's like, hang on, Viper, especially with the Bebop, seemed extremely effective. Is this something that needs to be attacked in the draft now?
Well, we'll see. I mean, also for melee creeps, Viper has been a huge benefit to them when Fishcake has been able to play it, but I believe the draft is ready. We don't have to sit here and fill for that much longer. We can just get directly into it. So I think. I say this and then it's just like, I'm left hanging.
Yeah, we'll just generally keep things moving as quick as we can, of course, given that we're going pretty deep into the night here. And for the players, too, of course, they're playing pretty late for some folks who may be on the East Coast of the United States. A lot to play for this one, right? A lot of pride on the line, especially for FPS Lounge, who came in today as the favorites, have had to kind of claw their way back into the series. But with 2 subs in melee creeps right now, I do feel like they should be vulnerable here in the game through with FPS Lounge showing such a dominant game too. I think this is kind of their series to lose. And so for them, the draft is really important just to not kind of toss it away now, right? Just to give yourself a good, stable setup going into this decisive game 3.
Dan,
surprising. Yeah, go ahead, CP.
I was gonna say, imagine the storyline where, we were kind of meeting. It's like, dude, why can't you get a replacement keyboard? You've had hours. If whatever, had the call a friend lifeline, and then at the last moment it's just like, Do is here. Do has a replacement keyboard. I don't think that's gonna be the case because I think it's too damn late unless Do is on the West Coast, but theoretically there was time to get another keyboard.
There was time. I mean, to be honest with you, I gotta say, I've always had spare keyboards. Like even like when I was like living at home and like it was like 2005 or something, I'm like, I always had a spare keyboard, so I don't know, for me this situation wouldn't happen, but
Jake, you can attest.
This is a lesson for Duke.
Jake, as someone that's been in esports a long time, and maybe this is the case where Du is like brand new to the esports, but over your career as both a pro player and a caster, how many free keyboards would you say you've received over the years?
Actually, last year I finally went through my box of old gaming gear and like sold a ton of mice and keyboards that I had just had in a box for years. I had like unboxed final mice, I guess, that have like appreciated in value since I bought them. Like I was like, wow, look at that.
But you bought them. You weren't giving them for free. Just to be clear, this was part of the buy.
No intention of speculating on any of it, but somehow, some way, some of those like the OG like final mouse have appreciated. I was like, that's great news. I sell them on eBay.
I was about to ask Dan for his collection but the drafts are starting. But actually, Dan, how many mice have you gone through in the last?
I'd rather talk about the collection than the draft.
There's a lot. I just wanted to do this whole Boomer Esports story thing where I played an international tournament, a CPL, which is like an equivalent of I don't know, like a really major tournament these days.
I remember the CPL actually. I'm just old enough to know what that is.
There we go. So I competed at CPL in Singapore, and I got 5th place in the 1v1, and I got a keyboard. So, I mean, the 4th place got like a few $1,000s, and then the 5th place, keyboard. So I was pretty salty about that.
What you had to do, the StarCraft tournament back in 2010, where the 4th through 8th, 10 Bitcoin,
Oh, dude.
It's probably worth $5 back then, but hey, if you just won that, if you got 5th place and just held, you'd be doing pretty good right about now.
Okay.
Looks like the ban change is going to be Billy over the Mirage, and FPS Lounge waste no time snapping that one up for Leffa.
So Dan, I was giving the question to you earlier. I'll bring it back again. Does Melee Creep say, you know what, it's time, we're giving LeBron the ball? Does Ido play pocket in one of these 2 picks?
I think Ido plays doorman. I think that's probably what happens, right? Because he's still that go-to door. Well, maybe we'll see John throughout the gun doorman.
I don't think gun doorman is going to happen, but I don't think I've seen that in a long time. But I do think the doorman, they have flex options here. I don't think this is locked in, and they will grab the pocket. So that does make me think this is going to be a signature Ido pocket. And when you're going for broke with double sub, playing for the vibes, I'm kind of with this one, man. I want to see what Ido can do on the OG signature. We haven't seen this in feels like months, CP.
Yeah, I mean, we got it last week where that you had like the full comfort draft, but aside from like last week, Ido and Pocket, they've been passing trains overall, not quite connecting, but the Shiv comes in for FPS Lounge, and Jake, I'm thinking about things that have worked out well for Melee Creeps, and if I'm FPS Lounge, I want to take it away. I kind of would like the idea of taking away the Venator. They're going to grab the Infernus, grab that away from League, but I think for Melee Creeps, I feel like there's hidden pressure here to grab the Ven, because even in the game they lost, I still feel like Venator is, such a comfort pick for John that if you're FPS Lounge, I think you want to take it away, or more controversially,
You might really want
take
Viscous.
away the silver.
Yeah,
Like
the Viscous is too good to pass up here with 3 basically like debuff focused heroes already picked from FPS Lounge. That reliable purge with Cube on max is too much to give up. It's so good in this spot.
All right, so mid-stage bands coming on in. Calco gonna be taken out from melee creeps, and Dan, for me, I'm just rolling through here. Do you attack John, or do you attack the pick that Lord and M has been most comfortable on in the silver? Even though the first game was a little bit rough, if I'm FPS Lounge, I'm kind of thinking I want to maximize the ability to potentially get Lord and M on the lash again. But instead, they just take down the Viper. They say, no fish cake Viper for us. Thank you very much. And Jake, to me, we've been seeing a lot of Venator 4th pick. I don't think that's going to change this time around.
Yeah, I kind of wish they would have banned the Venator. I think that would have been a great way to attack John here, especially with Doorman. I think has nice synergy with Venator. But maybe they could go Geist instead. Interesting that they don't want to play Venator here. I wonder what about this draft makes them feel worried to pick the Ven. I don't see any obvious reason why.
Maybe
just scared of getting overrun. Yeah, he's like, give me something down. But the Drifter gets through finally past the second phase ban. FPS Lounge wastes no time snapping up. This character has rocketed up the win rate in the last week or so. I think people have really started to figure out with some of these small buffs that silence on max AP rend is really game changing, right? Just giving you a couple free seconds to hit before some counter skills can come out.
Well, the other thing about Drifter too, I mean, he is the master of trading, where he just runs at you, and even if it goes badly, it's setting up someone else to get the kill. We saw that on display from Buffingers in particular. But Dan, now it gets interesting for melee creeps. What's going to be the Lord and M hero, and is Geist going to be the John hero? We'll see. But with Silver locked in, I think we know what Lord and M is going to be playing.
Yeah, I honestly kind of wish that we would see John play Warden, because I feel like Warden's undervalued. He got some buffs. He was already like Zergy already proved that he's pretty legit. But
they throw at me.
okay, we're gonna get to Abrams. So Abrams Silver Geist is pretty chunky. One of the things that's really interesting, I have to say, about the Viscous cubes and so on, is that Drifter does have a pretty nice mechanism with the ult to prevent you from being able to save people. I think that's like another part of his utility that makes him very annoying to play against.
Ooh, and Vindicta, another character that I've been liking in the meta recently. Cool to see her cutting in. I'm curious to see if this kind of tempo draft works out for FPS Lounge. Vindicta Drifter, these two characters you get ahead, you are going to have menaces on the map here.
All right, so now both drafts are complete. I'm going to start with Jake this time. Jake, you have to pick one of these two drafts in a vacuum. Which draft do you like more?
I think for me, it's easy. It's FPS Lounge. I think this Vindicta Drifter is really scary. I think both of these characters, very, very strong. People have already started to pick up on how good Drifter is, but I think Vindicta may still be a little slept on. I'm going to bet on the Snowball draft here. I think melee creeps have good tools into the late game, but I'm kind of worried about their ability to get there.
Dan, do you concur, or do you have a different take this time around?
Yeah, I'm a big Drifter fan right now, and I also agree about the Vindicta angle. I think Paradox has been also proven to be looking really sick today with what we saw from Xeno. So I love this draft from FPS Lounge. They even scored Mirage first pick as well. They got the Shiv, Infernus. I think this is like back to front, pretty nice. Maybe they're lacking some tank ability, but I think they have more than enough to make up for it in other tools.
Now, Jake, I think the other factor here to consider, and throw it out of the vacuum and look at who's actually playing what here, and I'll start with melee creeps. Melee creeps still is clutching on a lot of historical comfort picks, things that worked well for them last week, but most certainly we're probably gonna have Ido doing a tour of duty on the pocket. We got Lord and M on the silver, and yeah, game 1 wasn't the greatest, but game 3 last week was incredible. Fishcake probably taking the Abrams here. I mean, you kind of have to wonder what Saya's going to be on, but Saya's done a lot on Abrams, but Saya also has done a bit on Doorman. Overall, think about what melee creeps is comfortable on and who's played what. Where John's also had a lot on Geist. Do you think this is a comfortable draft for melee creeps?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I do think the pocket is always going to be one to believe in. I do think though part of the downside of some of these like heavier, tankier heroes like Silver and Abrams and Geist is that the Drifter's mark, right? It does damage based on your total health pool. So really heavy tanks can actually end up being super vulnerable to that. I think debuff remover is going to be at an absolute premium this game, pretty much for everyone on melee creeps. However, you kind of run into a point where you wish you could buy a second debuff remover, but you can't. Like if this many debuffs, like sure you debuff remove one time and then just another whole slate will come in on you. So I kind of think FPS Lounge have a scary draft to play against. Maybe the ultra late game, enough counter items come in. There's enough cooldown reduction on Cube to really batter through these fights. But I do like FPS Lounge. I think they're going to be able to be very proactive, which I think is exactly the way they want to play Deadlock.
All right, well, the stage is set. The final map is underway. Melee Creeps versus FPS Lounge. Who's going to take the throne? DDK and Jake going to be on the microphone. Dan, lead us to the finish line.
Okay, so super fun draft, I think, to finish off the night of so much Deadlock. I think, Jake, this is going to be very fun. I have really been enjoying Drifter's return. I think a lot of people were sort of wondering if his entire identity or kit should be changed. And I think, so far, of course, Yoshi and the crew have avoided doing that. Do you feel like the kit's kind of in a good place with where it's at?
No, I mean, I like that he's unique, I don't think it's like it shows that, like, okay, you give just a little bit of utility. I mean, he's so much damage in the kit, right? But just a little bit of utility, like the silence on only when you get max AP and rend, right? That has, I think, done a lot to change things, right? It makes it mitigate some of the counterplay. In the past, when Drifter gets like ultra farmed and eventually builds silencer, it feels like a huge timing for him, but it just wasn't that realistic in competitive play. And now getting that off of an ability, able to play a little bit more on the low eco side, feels like this character has found a much healthier niche. Definitely exciting to see. And Average is going to be the one piloting at this game. So always a player whose instincts about the game are worth looking into. See how he approaches this one, especially since he sometimes plays high eco, sometimes plays low eco. It's a good hero for him. If he snowballs, he knows what to do with it. If he's relatively poor, I still think he can have an impactful game.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we do have the Doorman Sire pairing up with John on the Geist, and Ido indeed on the Pockets, Fishcake on the Abrams. So pretty classic, heroes. League on Viscous, maybe one that's maybe more of a departure from the typical hero pull for League, but still League is such an excellent player. I don't think it's an issue at all. So could be fun to see kind of how this one matches up, but I would expect that the John Sire lane in mid should be pretty painful to be up against. Some good poke and good trading here that's possible with Geist and with Doorman as well.
They're dominating here in the mid lane right now. Even Leffa in real trouble. I doubt he has tornado level just yet. Is going to be maybe run down. The bomb is good. The lifesteal as well. The drain gets the kill, and John is getting just about everything in this lane. Saya happy to grab the finishing blow on that kill, but John's getting both side camps completely to himself. So, I mean, that's a devastating first couple of waves for FPS Lounge in mid. Like, normally this early in game, I almost would ignore any kind of advantage, but this is the dream start for John and Saya, and considering how game one went, I feel like you've got to take that into consideration.
And you were saying that Average is one to look out for, and I feel the same way about Low Main in terms of understanding how he plays the game. I think Low Main is one of the smartest players. I feel like in the North American scene, that's my personal opinion, as we see DMB get a kill into Lord and M there. And so with Vindicta coming back into the meta, again, I'm very curious, how does Low Main interpret how to get the edge or the most value out of this hero in this kind of composition that they're in at the moment? Because in the past, you'd even see more of a supportive Vindicta maybe in this kind of setup, like with Obikim and EU would kind of do that.
I mean, the interesting thing about Vindicta now, right, is instead of those snipe kills feeding you souls that you could put into support items and kind of like build a more holistic strategy around, now those kills are giving you like end game gun scaling. So I feel like this character almost has to be played as some kind of a carry, at least in towards the late game. And I do think there's problems with that in general, Vindicta just being so fragile. Pretty much no matter what you build, like, you're gonna die to a Phantom Strike in the late game. So it's definitely gonna be an interesting test, but as you said, I mean, there's no one more than Low Main I think I'd trust to kind of show us the new way on a hero that is just starting to find her way back into the meta.
So far, it's, what do you make of the lanes that we've got? I think, matchups that I think, there's definitely, I can see advantages for both teams. Just depends on kind of who's able to kind of get ahead in getting that first Guardian down.
I like that they put League and Fishcake here on Viscous and Abrams up against the Drifter plus Vindicta lane, but this Silver's just dead. 2 daggers in her. Surely there's a third. Okay, wait, the third misses. That actually maybe just gets her out, and the burn doesn't quite connect in time. So, okay. One more dagger connects. I think that is a kill. Lord and M going to be thanking his lucky stars, able to walk away from this one. And Ido on the pocket. We talked about him as a standard bearer. I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen him on the hero. This will be a bit of a test for him.
Yeah, and Lord and M has to be sick of playing up against Shiv at this point. There we go. Kills found here. Low main goes down as well as DMB. So some early kills for melee creeps.
Great start for them this game. This is a little scary when you're running Drifter, Vindicta, two heroes that want to snowball kills. I mean, it's not enough to be really worried just yet, but that was a kill that felt like should have connected here onto Lord NM, and instead it goes back the other way. Left struggling in the mid lane. I mean, this Geist and Doorman are kind of running away with it. Saya and John, always a tag team that you've got to respect, and they're proving why. I mean, this tower's down to half. Geist is more than happy to keep that pressure on with the gun buff.
Let's take out Paradox.
Pressure on mid lane. Paradox does get a shot back the other way, but I mean, Doorman is just not giving any quarter here. Abrams ult over the top is going to get over the head of Vindicta, pull her back down to the ground. Some vulnerability now, no more flight available for low main, but some nice little wall bounces from him. Boost, corner boosting back to safety. Visca's gone for an aggressive build, fearlessly trading here into Average's Drifter, and knows that you got to stay aggressive here to keep this Drifter in check. I mean, this is not really a hero you can escape from. It's one that you just need to make scared of you. Dan, I think may need you to reconnect again. May have lost you again, I'm assuming. Unless this is the most dramatic of all pauses, as we see Ido's Affliction coming down. No really major profit from it, though.
I'm back.
He's back.
Amazing. All right. So Popper's died. I saw that before I had to reconnect, and looking like Lord and M having a bit of a better time here, looking for the 1v1 against.
This is a crazy dive.
DMB.
To the Walker, DMB, surely not. Oh, he goes back into the flame, gets reignited. A little bit scary with Lycan Curse off cooldown, or rather on cooldown, I should say. Ido showing up with the pocket is going to evict DMB from deep in enemy territory.
Had the confidence, knew he had the help was on the way.
I don't like that he's going to lane like this, though. He's no HP. Surely he's going to be in trouble here. That bleed is hurting here onto the Abrams. The snipe comes in. Here's another one. Low main. Does not miss. League is going to pop the roll in close quarters, but that's just run for it. He tries to come out and finish off Average, but the darkness making it difficult to find those final shots. Parries out, and that's going to be League's life. Nice little pickup for Low main, and Average happy to profit with some stacks coming in. And yeah, I really don't like that. Lord of them came back to the lane with no HP. Like, of course you die to Shiv.
Yeah, definitely a pretty sketchy situation. Gets punished, and gives Poppers more of a lifeline back into this lane. So this is it could be problematic because they look quite strong in this lane right now as well. You get some burst damage coming in. Wow, okay, so Ido really trying to force Poppers to respect him.
And Shiv has a ton of sustain in this lane, but even that may not be enough with guys showing up. Okay. Wait, was that Geist? Am I crazy? What was that? What was that? I thought that was for sure there was an Essence Bomb, but that's just like the satchel from Ido. Sometimes just the two of them getting it done with a dive. They're just keeping the pressure on. Lord of them may have died in this lane, but he's right back in with full HP, and now putting the screws to the opposition. Low main here, though. Big snipe kill onto Ido pocket. So vulnerable to that spirit damage. DMB now desperately trying to get the distance away, and by a distance of inches, he'll avoid the teeth and claws of Lord NM. And as Lycan Curse ends, Lord NM could find himself in real trouble. Low main misses a snipe, but still over into the top. Puts the dog on a leash. DMB is going to surely be able to finish this one off with another snipe raining in. And I hate to say it again, but I didn't. Pretty sure it's happened again as action continues here in this third and final game of NA. Fishcake potentially also vulnerable. One more dagger should be enough, and it'll be shotgun blast from Shiv. And this game has been more than salvaged now by Poppers. He's kind of gotten back into the lead. Xeno as well. So all the farming tools he could want is going to bring that damage alongside Low main, who's got a few stacks now on Vindicta to clear out this first Guardian. A big nuke of spirit damage comes in, though, and Low main annihilated here by Ido on the lane. Pays a price for taking that tower.
Yeah, the affliction on Xeno too is going to force Xeno to be a bit more passive, but the tower goes down at least, so that's going to be some priority. We do have the 10-minute mark coming up as well, so the buffs will go with that. Ido looking to trade back onto the tower. Looking pretty good for this one. The shotgun still pretty solid. The cloak as well. And great to see Ido back on the old faithful of Pocket here as we see him running around the map and still
Clearly
keeping
has
the
not
pressure
lost
on.
a step. Has some big stacks right now. I'm going to push it for more. Lomine once again getting these instant burst kills. Vindicta showing up in such a huge way here in game 3, still over the top. And Pocket affected by the darkness. Just can't possibly see these threats coming. Average picks up a kill, and that should be another Drifter stack. Going the way of AVG, who's got a pretty aggressive build with a lot of carry potential here. Skipped Stalker instead, went for slowing bullets and K-Dash. So he's going to do a lot of damage in his own right.
Ooh. Lots of damage indeed, but able to get out. Maximum rage as well at the moment, so that's always
The
helpful.
snipe hits League. Easy gets out.
Low main's a problem on this Vindicta. And they really want to take this mid Guardian down. FPS Lounge really looking for it. And picked up by the Paradox. Again, very common we see that they pick characters, getting the priority on that one. And mid Guardian still up there for melee creeps.
Stormman ult from Saya sets up a counter kill. AVG gets shut down for now. Good to keep this Drifter from getting too oppressive on the map. Nice little win for Ido, though. Has a bit of space here in the mid. He's going to clear these mid boxes. Actually, one of the more significant soul objectives on the map, maybe more than people realize. Like, if you get all those soul boxes in mid, I think it's like maybe 1,000 or so souls, even this early in the game. So it's a pretty significant reward, bigger than even like a large camp would be at this moment.
It's like the invade pressure from FPS Lounge is definitely quite serious right now, looking to get this mid Guardian, and you also have a fight that's brewing between Xeno and also Fishcake. Looking to take down Fishcake. Fishcake is really low. There's a charge to try to escape here, but is there? Yeah, okay, Xeno's going to be able to chase that one down. You've always be careful as well because those snipes are never too far away. Low main also in the fight at the moment, raining down the fire as well. And it looks like FPS Lounge really controlling the fight here on this invade. They're pulling out now though.
Is that Affliction going to tick out Poppers? It's going to be close. I think maybe just barely lives. DMB baiting the fight here. But it's so tough. You get kited around. The creeps bringing a lot of damage into that trade. And Lord NM can't outplay the opposition. DMB so tanky with this build. He is ridiculously hard to bring down, even for Silver. I love this build for him as a solo laner this game. He is practically ungankable, leaving the rest of his team free to just roam the map and look for kills. And when you're able to find kills with this build, that feels too good to be true almost.
Yeah, that's actually like a very... I like that a lot as well. I didn't notice the build, how tuned it was to just staying alive. Very, very cool to see. A lot of priority placed on the ult as well for setup.
Stalker's Mark goes wide though, and that'll get Lord NM back to the safety of the walker. But you see, all these players from FPS Lounge there. It's actually just not getting a kill if this rotation. It's going to be potentially a little costly with so many players coming into the fight. Gives a little bit of wave priority back the other way, but now League finds himself potentially in some trouble, and there is the rift here. So in the end, FPS Lounge will be rewarded for bringing all their players to this fight.
Okay, so the fight here looking favorable for FPS
already.
Lounge. They got position. There's
Really
a
defensive
concussive.
Pocket. Concussive, does it hit? Doesn't seem like much of a connection from that. DMB is still strong in this fight though, and it's tough to stay inside of the zone. Lord NM desperately wants to pop that Lycan Curse just to stay healthy, to bring more threat to the fight, but the damage coming in against him, the rift is secured here for FPS Lounge. Maybe more to be found on the back of this, as there's a lot of low players on melee creeps. Lomé would love to be able to pick up some snipe kills. There's going to be one. That'll be all he'll find in the fight. Does go down, but Popper's heavy HP here on the Shiv, and this is a playground now for him. He's free to run down these kills. Pocket Cape, caught in a corner, can't escape to that. Just tries to juke away instead, but all he's going to find is a little bit of extra damage before he falls. Another stack going the way of AVG, who's really started to rack them up now on the Drifter.
Yeah, making it look really good. Like this comp overall looking quite nice here for FPS Lounge, especially, some of this impact DMB is having. I think doing a really good job with that. Infernus, I've honestly really enjoyed seeing Infernus coming back into favor, being valued by everybody. And, you're seeing like an interesting switch up on how the build works as well. Just a bit more focus on the concussive combustion, getting 2 points in it. I think much earlier than I think the last iteration of builds that was
Oh
popular.
yeah, I mean, the lifesteal you get on that concussive combustion can be pretty massive. You get a few players, it could be like a full HP heal, and that's on top of already being pretty dang tanky on DMB. So you kind of become almost more of a team fight hero than a late game carry, which I think plays really well to how aggressive it feels like this meta is, how many objectives you need to be challenging for early. Better position though is going to win the survival buff for John in this case. DMB picks up Spirit elsewhere, so he's going to be presenting some problems to Ido as they 1v1 in the side lane. But I think we're on the right camera here. Low main has been involved in just about every bit of action we've seen in this game. Perfectly timed tornado from Lefa, baits the slam down on him and evades it completely.
Yeah, the grab of the end though from John. And just sending back these hungry FPS Lounge players looking to close the distance. And there it is. There's a snipe from distance. Low main able to pick off Fish Cake. It definitely does seem like it's a tough game for the tanks, you know, with a few of these factors that are playing at FPS Lounge's advantage. The snipes have been really nice. You've obviously got the Drifter as well. Seems like it can be quite a good answer. And the advantage starts to build.
Deep dive on the Walker. Looks like a big fight brewing. Saya's trying to get active into this, has caged one in the doorman ult. League as well getting into this fight, and they will be able to bring down low main. Just barely, but the Walker does fall. Lefa's really committed for that. Is he going to be able to play his way out of this? The door almost gets him out of trouble, but it becomes a bait. The rest of Melee Creep's there, ready to shut him down and deny escape. But in the end, 2 kills for a Walker this early in the game doesn't feel too bad for FPS Lounge.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Now, I wonder what's the next find is going to be here. We got some roam from the Melee Creeps players. You have a Fish Cake very advanced position, but we'll get the catch here. The bowler onto Average. He is absolutely in no man's land there.
Thought he could punish this center steal, and instead he got completely turned on. Great awareness from Melee Creeps, bringing the numbers to back up that invasion.
Gotta be careful here with these knives. You have John, you know, just trying to farm with impunity at the moment on the guys on the left side lane, but is up against DMB. They're pretty much on par. I mean, slight advantage on the farm for DMB. And given DMB's items, I mean, I think it's such a great call out to that build, Shake, because if he's in that 1v1 battle against the Geist, he's going to be able to trade really effectively.
A little bit of greed here for League. So he was able to get away with it. It's gone for a pretty selfless build. The Trophy Collector is going to let him scale, and that's some pretty good damage, but healing Nova is the buy this game. Just really wants to sustain the team in the fight. A big affliction now, 2-man from Idol, but will it be enough? Low main coming into another fight on the other side lane. This one already has gone the way of FPS Lounge. They're wasting no time, though. They're pressing both sides of the map. They're going to pick up another kill, this time on John, who I just don't think expected that kind of a split map aggression. Full damage build here from low main, and I mean, he's probably got some serious stacks started to build up here on this Vindicta. This is a moment in the game you don't really have the counter items to deal with her. She's going to be a menace in these fights.
Yeah, looking for the catch with the charge, but was it all the bait? Because right now, Fish Cake in trouble on the Abrams, is going to get cubed here, looking to escape. Able to cut line aside temporarily, but look at the damage bearing down upon him. I don't know that he can do too much. He's going to get caught out by the Drifter. Average comes in for the cleanup kill. And look how confidently they can just walk into the enemy territory there for that pickoff. That just really tells you the full story. Even though this is only a 7k deficit for Melee Creeps don't seem to have the ability to hold the ground.
Yeah, the shred is pretty crazy. So many debuffs, and the debuff removers are just starting to come out for Melee Creeps, but it's an item they need so desperately just to play the game. Will be a doorman ult on Drifter, but DMB is here on the other side, so as he comes out of the hotel, I'm just not so confident, but hold on, maybe the pin under the Walker is good. He dodges the stun for now, put some damage back the other way, trying to just do what he can, but in the end, it's a good setup from Saya, kidnapped under the Walker, John ready for the follow-up.
That's such a good pick to make as well. I mean, again, we talked about how FPS Lounge are starting to run away with some things. Nice grab, and in the meantime, though, FPS Lounge are happily picking up this rift. Is there a late challenge? There is. diving onto position. Melee Crew seeing if they can try to steal this one, push FPS Lounge off of it. Two players to one on the circle right now.
Need to be able to kill this Mirage off. You've invested in an Inflict into the kill. It's only Zeno holding the line as, okay, never mind. Poppers joins in, picks up one execute, has the refresh going, wants to find more kills. This Rift has been running for quite some time. The Cube is going to block this execute, so Poppers loses the streak, but League so low HP, surely dead to right. Zeno will find that finish. Elsewhere, John is going to claim the mid walker, which was a nice prize, but the Rift and a couple kills go the way of FPS Lounge, giving them what I think is the better trade in this fight, especially if they're able to come back and pick up a couple of these buffs. Titanic Mag, the buy for Lowman, who's just specking all into damage now. I mean, Vindicta, we're kind of a long way until Fishcake or Lord and M pick up the Phantom Strike. There's going to be like 5 or 10 minutes here where Lowman is just going to be an absolute terror with no real way to answer him here in the Melee Creeps draft.
And it is interesting too, because the trade onto the mid walker, I feel like is actually really valuable, because having your last walker beat the mid walker is really powerful, good position. Yeah. But hold that thought for now. We've got the chase down. Average pull again here.
What a boot
Big
kick.
Kill to find. And
Locks
there it is.
Into the Veil room, and that wasn't where he wanted to go. Great find. Melee Creeps pulled 2 out of their hat. Those are massive kills to find. Look how long that spawn is. 50 seconds on the deck for Zeno. He's 2 farmed, and post 20 minutes, that's going to be punished, and a mid boss is the call. There's just enough players for FPS Lounge where it feels like they'll look for a contest, but it feels like that could also be throwing the game away now. In a match that was so well managed by FPS Lounge, they make one key mistake, and Melee Creeps are just right back into it.
Yeah, such good decisive decision making. Is there any attempt in? No, like you say, it's
I'm glad there's not, honestly. I think if they, in the end, giving up these rejuves is not that big of a deal. You still have the advantage. You're going to pick up a walker here for Leffa, who's going to be happy to get that injection of souls, although he is going to get ganked. Does he get the blue zip in time? Okay, he will be all right. Can't quite roam into his lane in time, and this is Leffa's turn, I think, to have a potentially pretty big game in the soul count, especially after picking up that walker, having a few minutes to free farm here. See how they play against the rejuve disadvantage.
So there it is. I mean, this is one of the reasons why losing the mid walker is kind of rough, because it's much easier, I think, for Melee Creeps to kind of split push and macro out one of these side walkers. It's because, you know, such a big rotation time from side to side, even with the zips. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that dynamic kind of works out. And in the meantime, you know, Melee Creeps, they've only got their mid walker left, which is obviously now going to be tankier to deal with, and you know, positionally is the more valuable one. So pretty interesting dynamic.
I will say, playing against rejuves makes the game plan for Drifter Vindicta far less straightforward. Like, you've been wanting to kind of like push for these aggressive kills, force kind of team fights, and trust that you're going to get the better end of those kind of skirmishes. But with rejuves, that feels almost impossible. It's like you really need to be able to stick around and stay for the longer team fight, which I don't think is really what this draft does. So it's a very big win for Melee Creeps to be able to find that team fight in the rejuves off the back. It's given them a lot of room to breathe, but now, of course, only 3 minutes on the rejuve timer is not the most to be able to find. I mean, they're just gonna be able to farm and basically equalize souls, but I kind of doubt that Melee Creeps get an actual objective off of this.
I see Shiv.
Yeah, very interesting moment in the game.
Let's take out Shiv.
FPS Lounge really trying not to give up anything at all. Now they're starting to get those waves crashing in onto their sidewalkers. Seeing what they can do to defend. Some deep push coming on through. Time bombs
So
quite
hard to push
helpful.
into this. They're gonna try anyway. They put poppers in the hotel, but this could turn into maybe more than Melee Creeps have bargained for here. Blooming gonna hold the other side. Instant kill onto Fishcake. Still a stack going for Drifter. And that Abrams isn't necessarily safe for more. Lord and M looks in. Gets tornado, double tornadoed in fact. Needs the cube just to stay alive. Living for now in the corner, and Melee Creeps continue to bring numbers despite they want to make some value off the rejuves they've already expended, but they're all low down on half health, Dan. I don't like their odds. I think they feel the same way. They're going to back off and think that maybe half of a walker is enough damage here.
Kind of seems like the damage output disparity is problematic for Melee Creeps to siege. And there's another rejuve crystal going almost all too easily here. Popper's looking to potentially chase that one down. He'd love to do it, but not going to happen this time around. And it seems as though, yeah, able to kind of keep the game in an even place, our FPS Lounge. But with that said, even at even souls, it feels like they just are more threatening in the fights.
Yeah, I do think Melee Creeps, though, I do think as this gets later and later, I kind of like their odds better and better. Viscous is I think he's close to max cube now if he doesn't already have it on League, which will be a really significant moment, especially as it comes to like mitigating a lot of these debuff-based damage sources. However, Lomain picks up Blood Tribute. I mean, he's looking to peak here and now, Dan. I really think FPS Lounge want to put the pressure on. This is a key moment, Melee Creeps. They have to defend this mid walker, and the fact that they have it is, I think, kind of keeping them out on the map in a really important way in the game. Buff, oh, desperate AVG trying to get it is instead going to get a charge to the face. Heavy melee finishes the job. Saya with the final shot to clean it up. But FPS Lounge, they've been so good at punishing so far in this series, but this time doesn't seem like they get a single thing. AVG just goes down for free.
Yeah, AVG having, I think like 3 times now we've seen him getting caught out, which is really unfortunate for him. Having to sit, just, you know, waiting for the respawn for quite some time. And now, you know, this is a great player, Lord and them, to be able to pick up this urn here. And I don't really think there's going to be anything to stop this, really, although the Rift actually coming to the urn position is interesting. The wave priorities against them at the moment. But there's nobody
Saito getting ganked. All 6 players for FPS Lounge are on the other side of the map. They're trying to make something out of it, but
yeah,
they don't find anything. I think Ido scouts them out and slips away. Really well done by Pocket here. And FPS Lounge are trying to make something happen with only 5 players alive and don't really come up with anything.
They go for the challenge now, though. Lefa is on the lane proper. He's got some distance now. Everybody coming across, leaving just DMB on the Infernus out of the fight at the moment. And I don't think Melee Creeps want to challenge this one. They don't have people in position. There are a couple players, though, and the Baroness comes on through as well. That might actually be a pretty helpful. Nobody's in the circle.
And they're able to finish it. Instead of killing the Shiv, they just kind of block him out for a moment, and the mobility is not nearly enough. Everybody ready as he exits the Baroness. Now a big wave of troopers. Surely this will be enough to take that side walker, but I think more important than the Men at Black is Popper's down. I mean, you don't have to worry about the threat of the counter punch from Shiv. Although they're not actually going to commit. They just say, I mean, we've used enough, and we're not going to try and siege that walker. Kind of wish we would have seen Melee Creeps go for a fight there. Maybe just too worried about the threat of a team fight going against them. The FPS Lounge having such strong tools to rotate in. I feel like we haven't seen Lomain able to activate as well as these team fights now trend toward the higher number counts as we get towards the later in the game. I'm kind of getting worried that FPS Lounge may have missed their timing, Dan. I don't think it's over by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Melee Creeps have not only taken the sole lead, but a bit of an advantage in the bigger strategic game as well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an argument to be made there. You know, maybe being a little bit too passive, letting your best chance go. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Mid boss is coming up in 30 seconds, and that might also be part of the calculus in playing more defensively and not wanting to take risks. But at the same time, again, you kind of come back to that decision point where it's like, well, not taking a risk is in of itself a risk, you know, of some degree. And there's actually quite a lot of farm left up on the map on FPS Lounge's side to be farmed at this point as well. So there are things to do.
I mean, the damage of Vindicta is pretty bonkers on this build. I wonder, is he going Vamp Burst next? I mean, I feel like he might, given that all he's gone. He has insane raw damage from the stacks. He's just building crazy amounts of attack speed and Titanic Mag as well. I really want to see what this Vin can do when she's able to actually just lay that damage in. She has to play so careful because she's going to be public enemy #1 with that much damage and that little tankiness. But Melee Creeps kind of trying to bait them into a bad situation, you know, trying to pull the fight closer to their walker. Xeno looks like he's going for that same max bomb build. It's going to be pretty scary to challenge him on objectives, but with Doorman available, feels like you'd always have to give the edge in that kind of a fight to the Melee Creeps.
Average looking for the catch now, but so deep, it's very, very quick to get back to base and safety. But really trying to find something here. FPS Lounge must, or really want to create something. Concussive combustion out of the hotel.
Oh,
a lot of range on that.
Trouble. Could just get popped on this one. The concussive wasn't expecting that. He's coming out of the Baroness. A flick though onto 3. That could be more than enough. Can Melee Creeps finish the job? They're all low across the board. This isn't easy. They can't slip out to the door. The tornadoes locking them down. Still, 2 players from FPS Lounge out of the fight already. The Affliction doing its deadly work. DMB drops as well. And Ido gives his life for the cause, but it turns out to be well worth it now. Even he potentially is going to get run down here. Takes a big splatter. The punch out can't get him out of the TP though, so he will be able to slip away to the other side of the map. And Mid boss, though, could be a look. I mean, Melee Creeps, you've gone 1 for 3. They're going to be very happy with the way that fight went. And yeah, they're just making the beeline to this key objective. They know that they've taken the lead now in this game. Viscus is built towards some of these key items. That disarming hex really going to mitigate some of the threat from low main's Vindicta. And FPS Lounge find themselves in real trouble. Another rejuve that I don't know that they can contest. It could be just another clean 3-0 rejuve for Melee Creeps.
Yeah, I don't know what they can do. There's very little available here. I mean, they're going to try to do something. There's a big swap, but
what does it mean? I mean, you're committed. You're committed into a triple rejuve. Yes, you drop one rejuve out. Okay, and a second is found. So good finds from Xeno. I think well worth his life here, but still, the cost is exacted. They're able to leave with one rejuve is going to be more than enough, maybe, for Melee Creeps to progress this game.
I mean, if that's what had come in maybe half a second sooner, might have been able to pull some steals there, but this time not quite as fortunate as the previous game where we saw that actually work out for them. But still, you know, not dead just yet. Not dead just yet. Although once the Rejuve Crystal's still available, I feel like it does make a difference though, especially with the lead. You know, 25k is not crazy of a lead. Like, you still have to respect your opponents in the fights. However, you can see that not allowing the urn to get turned in, rallying around it, Melee Creeps looking to block it. We'll see if Leffa decides to go all the way.
Definitely enemy territory, especially with 2 players dead and a rejuve on the other side. Melee Creeps will not give that one up for free. Absolutely going to challenge and even going to look to siege the walker on the other side of the map. DMB gets afflicted. Ido goes deep for the dive and he finds that kill. Big one to connect on. 70 seconds on the deck for Infernus, and this could easily turn into a base push. It may just be one rejuve, but Melee Creeps may not even need that rejuve. They're strong in their own right now.
This is really dangerous right now for FPS Lounge. I'm trying to sort of think of what they'll be able to do here. What are the win conditions for them to get back into this one? They don't have, you know, other than Xeno, like super easy setup, I suppose, for initiating a pick. And there's the swaps as well. You know, it doesn't have like the range of like a hook, for example, and you don't have like the mobility of like a lasso where you can kind of get in, jump out of the way, and really abduct someone. So it just feels hard to engineer the kind of pick that FPS Lounge would need to try to find a way back in. Or do you disagree, Jay?
No, I think this draft is like one that needs to snowball the game, and this is the second mid boss that has gone 100% in favor of Melee Creeps. That's not the game you want it to be in FPS Lounge. They want it to be ending with the second rejuve. Instead, they're trying to just stay alive and stay into the series. I think once this Abrams, I mean, he's got 4 actives. I feel like a Phantom Strike will be a very good buy this game to shut down low main in particular. So he may be selling something like the Slowing Hex at some point this game, but I mean, this is Melee Creeps, I think, with a better late game draft, able to just freely farm the map. They are in no hurry to end this one, and FPS Lounge, I don't see how they can change their fortunes in the short term.
Very tough indeed. Both buffs secured as well, of course, and it just makes things even more threatening. Rejuve runs out, but map is being sucked dry of souls by Melee Creeps, and there's a rift. So
it's a big comeback rift. I feel like this one could actually be scary if Melee Creeps do try to contest it. But for FPS Lounge to even walk up into the rift is itself a risk, right? Like, there, you're absolutely going to be called upon to earn your place in that corner of the map. You're not going to be able to get it for free, as Fishcake lurking, looking for an opportunity to get a pick before the fight begins.
I think you're right, Jake. You know, this is really a moment for FPS Lounge to have a fight, to have a chance at a fight. Melee Creeps, they let it go.
Charge miss this time.
It's gonna whiff.
They're looking to fight off of the rift. Lord and them preventing the finish though on the rift, but yeah, doesn't want to stick it for long. Now that Resist is off the field, this is a heads up fight with a 30k soul advantage. Arguably more in terms of what's on the map. FPS Lounge just want to get back to the spawn. The Drifter ult trying to cover the retreat, but DMB won't be so lucky. Infernus is run over here. Leffa keeping the pressure on the map here. Is going to shove in mid lane, maybe try to take down this mid walker. Has to just Traveler away though. Knows that he won't actually be able to stick around long enough to do meaningful damage. And I mean, losing Mirage here would be devastating. I think it would probably lead to a major base siege. And maybe the DMB kill is actually good enough. Like, once you fix this map for Melee Creeps, Phantom Strike online now on Lord NM, and I feel like you've got the tools you need. I think this Vindicta is falling off. She's kind of past her prime in the game.
Yeah, such a tough position to manage. And you kind of look back to that point where you were mentioning, oh, maybe this is the best chance gone on the window to take an attack against melee creeps. Maybe that window's gone. Kind of starting to think back to those moments now, Jake, now that the lead is just continuing to expand for melee creeps. And FPS Lounge kind of find themselves in a similar spot where, you know, they are just having to try to find this like perfect fight, but like no fight is going to be close to perfect.
Contest over the bus might be the best they can do, but a great initiation comes in. Hold on, the tornado evades a lot of the follow-ups, picking up a ton of these players. Vitality buff picked up by Xeno in the chaos. Mirage, though, completely out of tornadoes. You can tell melee creeps know it. They're hard focusing this kill. They want to shut down Lefa, preventing him from continuing to apply those debuffs. Melee creeps swarming over the opposition. Second kill is found. League somehow still alive here on the Viscous. Shiv, though, started to dash through them. Picks up 2 counter kills of his own. Hold on, there might just be a shred of a chance here, but John, always the reliable one, still healthy. Full stacked on Berserker, full stacked on Spellslinger. This is not someone you want to challenge. Lomane and DMB, I mean, look at Lomane. He is in enemy territory here, finished off by Saya. And I think he can, John can clear the base easily on his own here. More than farmed enough on the guys, up to nearly 50k here for him. Wow, you really feel the plated in this kind of a trade. Concussive is gonna hit, actually. Hold on, guys. Could be in trouble, does not have swap. Colossus comes out, but yeah, with the Ignite coming in, this is a good call from DMB. He finds this catch, and with the rest of melee creeps trying to greet it up and do the mid boss at the same time. Maybe they've overextended themselves. Maybe they've overplayed their hand as they're trying to take this mid boss.
They're in mid.
May have lost you again, Dan.
Yeah, Dan is not here, and it's right at this point here, Jake, where it's come down to wire. Melee creeps, they split things off.
Oh,
they
this
go
is
for
crazy.
mid boss, and we'll see if there's a contest coming in for FPS Lounge.
This is the best chance they're going to get in this game. They know it too. It's a desperate one. Affliction comes in. It's only on to Lefa. Here come the parry game. So crucial. This is for all the marbles. Regio's 2-1 in favor of melee creeps, but the kills maybe going back the other way. These FPS Lounge players still strong, fighting well in the pit, still holding on to that final Reju charge. It'll be DMB to make use of it. Lefa now has to just play off his own wits. Is going to go down for 80. A refresher to Affliction once again, but it's only on to 1. This could be FPS Lounge just way back into the game, but they need more kills off this fight. They need to shut down this Ido pocket. Pick up some more stacks for Drifter. They may be able to find him, but they know they can't go over aggressive here. They can't force it. They have to let the fight come to them.
A very challenging position here. FPS Lounge, as you say, the urgency is upon them here. They've got to try to find the value. Can't allow escape, and Lord and M's going to go down. Only 2 players up here right now for melee crew, so absolutely opportunity to take down this Walker. They do have a wave crashing against the left side of their base at the moment, so they're going to be cautious about that, but for now, they're going to be able to get a lot of damage done. Maybe even get the base guardians off the creep push on the right side of the map as well, because you've got John coming straight back off the zip, looking to try to punish.
I mean, John's going to be kicking himself for that feed. I mean, dies a DMB, solo pushing the base. I said he could get it done on his own, but maybe wasn't expecting like the disarming hex out of DMB, and not an item I almost ever see bought on Infernus, but it means he can win that 1v1 against Geist when Swamp is down. Turns it around for the best team fight we've had in a hot second for FPS Lounge. Couple Divine Barriers get bought. Ido's Afflictions now going to be kind of called into question in terms of their effectiveness. I really feel like
The doorman's missing.
I still think melee creeps have a better late game, but I'm starting to kind of question that analysis after one major team fight that put a lot of farm in the pocket of this Mirage and Infernus. Doorman is going to get most of these last hits off the Baroness Hotel kidnap, and Lefa's actually wants to force the fight. He wants to help out his buddy. Tornado's back for now.
Shiv's on the roof.
May have done enough to just get ABG out of trouble.
Yeah, this game becomes very interesting right now. Obviously, still a good advantage on souls for melee creeps, but they've got to respect this. All the ways pushed against them at the moment as well. Lots of farm on the map here for FPS Lounge to very quickly gobble up so that they can start to maybe even out the situation a little bit. It'll certainly be helpful. But the question is, what's going to happen with this next mid boss? I mean, right now there's actually quite a bit of time until that mid boss is going to be coming up. So there's some real opportunity here for FPS Lounge to farm and to recover. And once that's all said and done, Jake, I mean, the difference in souls, yeah, there'll still be an advantage for melee creeps, but it will be significantly different than the game state we had before. It's going to be marginal of an advantage.
Yeah. Unstop's a really nice buy for Drifter. I think that's going to let him be a lot more effective now in the late game team fights when there's so much control thrown out across the board. think with a couple of divine barriers now, like some of the tools to answer the melee creeps late game have come out. I still favor them, but I think especially in this game state when there's no real objectives on the map and it's kind of people are more likely to split and farm, maybe this Drifter Vindicta can come back into the limelight and show us a little bit more of an effective setup. Swap just barely misses here onto John. Happy to slip away. I mean, would be a pretty brutal kill regardless. Like, I don't know if I necessarily believe in your ability to initiate on Geist here, especially with Viscous behind, but everyone looking for the better side of these trades. Double buff does go the way of melee creeps. That'll be a nice little feather in their cap.
Things feeling quite tense here now. Final map of this series.
Look at this bullet
all
resist.
The way.
He's got metal skin, bullet resilience, warp stone, and plated on Geist. He is ready for this low main Vindicta damage. And honestly, I think that's really wise because even Vindicta, like if she just gets that few seconds to free fire, she will kill just about anything. But maybe with that level of investment, even she won't be able to get damage through. Nice play from Leopard. Tornadoes to protect himself while he's traveling out.
Vindicta's on the roof.
Looking to get a free rift for FPS Lounge.
It's a lot of souls, man. 7,500 souls.
Let's go blue.
Man, that's going to feel good.
I do feel like there's a bit of a macro advantage when FPS Lounge are able to completely split the map wide open and split up across the board. Poppers is put in the doorman ult, but there's a darkness also popped in mid. Even Saya getting a little bit low. Still has a cheat death to play with, but he's kind of getting harassed down from multiple angles here. Average and DMB takes some big hits up top though. Seems like that's where the main fight is breaking out. Scourge on the Abrams overwhelms the Shiv. Crucial to be able to shut him down early. Same for AVG. A lot of these chase down heroes now off the field, and melee creeps may have done enough, maybe breaking through this series, bringing it back after a brutal game 2. Lord NM has also shown us something much more solid here on the silver. Eats Lefa alive, and with mid-boss spawning, okay, Xeno finds a kill on Saya, but how much does that really matter? Map completely in control of the melee creeps. They can do mid, they can go for the patron drop as well.
Yeah, one very, very quick effort, but unfortunate for FPS Lounge, Jake. I think they just got caught out of position. Like they were just staggered into the fight, and it just created a perfect scenario for melee creeps to just snowball it and make it look extraordinarily easy. And you know, right now there's problems. There's even pressure being put on the base already. Maybe Lord and them getting ahead of himself a little bit will fall a bit off of that one, and I need to once again initiate the attack siege with the rest of the team now as they secure all the rejuves. And again,
oh no, not this kill on the DMB. Oh, I know that should be game. That kill on the DMB is crucial. There's not gonna be anyone to stop the Shrine Siege, so guaranteed patron drop. And big buys also coming out with the triple regen. This just feels like too much weight for FPS Lounge to get out from under.
Yeah, this is not really looking all that doable at this point with the 3 rejuves. And there's gonna be 5 players up here to contest with some melee creeps, and 3 players still on the deck as well. Gotta wait some extra time for left to get up.
He's not gonna be up. The question is, do melee creeps want to rush this? They may have a lot of souls to spend, so yeah, maybe wise to go back and get one last buy. Ido is filthy rich right now in pocket, almost 70,000 souls, running out of 6Ks to buy. And it just feels, you know, now that this split map roaming pressure, you know, like Vindicta and Drifter were roaming and dominating so well, and then eventually it turned against them. If you can't farm this camp safely, you can't do much of anything on the map. An attempt here made onto Xeno. Indomitable shield is good. The Vortex Up trying to catch this Paradox. They think better of hard committing on it, but they get a lot of unstops out. A lot of powerful item charges do come out. So Saya getting a lot with just a little there. The Doorman ult, great effect.
What has to happen here, Jake, for FPS Lounge to actually come back? I don't know. They're about to get sieged, so
you can always win a base defense. I feel like that is always winnable. Average pops the Drifter ult, silences, or rather blocks up on a couple players. Still a big 3-man affliction. It's going to be divine barriered off, at least the Poppers, but still ticking away on Lefra and Average, who are struggling to play into the fight, and the health bars just dropping now on FPS Lounge across the board. Into the fountain goes Lord NM. This is probably the one way you can lose, is diving the fountain though, so got to think a little bit carefully now. One rejuve off the field. FPS Lounge able to stabilize and reset, but the patron's just dropping too quick. You got to play in the pit now. You cannot back down. You need that invuln defend to resist. 2 players already off the field, and still rejuves remain. Melee creeps somehow, some way, with 2 subs, they bring this back in 3, finish the series, and they are just unbeatable, it seems. Despite what it felt like the deck stacked against them today, they deliver the goods with a signature Ido pocket performance, maybe the best pocket we have seen all day. And from one of the best to ever do it, I guess we shouldn't be surprised.
What a end to the finals. 2 of the 3 maps here in North America going over 40 minutes, a series for the ages, but it's Melee Creeps who end up on top. Doesn't get a whole lot closer than we got here, and man, oh man, Dan, I'm thinking back through Night Shift history, not only one of the longest days we've had, but some of the closest games we've seen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think this was a great series. I think also if people missed the finals of the EU as well, absolutely amazing stuff. And it's so cool to see the parity of these teams. And again, with the statins as well, definitely a surprising ability to perform. We saw FPS Lounge starting out the day looking really strong, and coming into this series, we saw strength from them. But I think the resiliency of Melee Creeps has been really impressive, and the fact that some of the consistency of the performances we've seen in the face of I think like for me, Xeno was a standout today on FPS Lounge. Creating insane amounts of opportunities. I mean, I could go across the board. We've obviously had so much gameplay, and I could say a lot of great things about a lot of players here. But I think it just goes to show, Deadlock continues to get better and better the more the time goes on.
So Jake, I gotta ask here, of course, this was a game that went very much back and forth, but you talk about moments that define the game where it went from, whoa, this is close, to, hey, Melee Creeps is about to run away with it. What was the first one for you where you're like, wait, this actually might be Melee Creeps' game?
I mean, the first mid boss was brutal. It was like FPS Lounge were in such firm control of the game, and then they take just 2 deaths. Xeno has a very long spawn because it's just after 20 minutes, and they just lose a clean rejuve back the other way, or clean mid boss take. And that, it feels like, is the beginning of the crumbling, because the challenge with this Vindicta Drifter comp is you can't really afford to make that kind of mistake. Like, you're so strong in the early game, you invested so hard into it, but you need to end the game. Like, you cannot let the game go ultra late into this Melee Creeps draft where everyone is scaling, everyone becomes a huge threat. You can't say the same about Drifter Vindicta. They just aren't able to have that same effect this deep into a match, especially at the level of play we're seeing here. Like, people just aren't getting isolated anymore. You're not able to force the team fights you want. Vindicta just goes down too early. She just can't play the game. With all the damage she has, doesn't really matter if you're dead, especially with somebody like Pocket. I think one of the most scary heroes in this like ultra late game. 70,000 souls nearly for him. Lord and M able to just attack with fearless abandon into the back line. Huge threat here in the silver with all of her resists, and the Scourge is just can't deal with her at this point in the game. And I think this is it's like, this is small mistakes here and there, but they end up having big consequences because Melee Creeps consistently able to convert those comeback team fights into major objectives like the mid boss. And we just got too deep into the game for this FPS Lounge draft to function.
Dan, speaking of heroes that started to go wild from scaling to the late game, you take a look at John, the actual wrecking ball towards the end on objective damage, although nearly also led to one of the greater throws we've seen where Melee Creeps tried to be really efficient and go, John, you solo push the base, we'll go back and go mid boss, and it nearly led to a catastrophe for Melee Creeps where it let FPS Lounge back into the game. It didn't quite result in FPS Lounge winning the game, but that's a case where trying to go for max efficiency was almost max throw.
Yeah, that was definitely the wrong hero to be up against in that base. At Siege, I don't think that John was expecting that was going to be the impact of that scenario. I mean, that was kind of insane. It's not often that one kill can be so decisive in a swing, and there was genuine threat of the game kind of turning there. And I think FPS Lounge, if it wasn't so difficult for them to engineer those fights, like, so much has to go right positionally, I think, with the comp that they have. I think just like Jake was describing with how the team scaled against them, and they're so squishy in the wrong ways that it's just like such a difficult thing. If you get caught out of position, you're just kind of dead, and that's kind of what ended up ending the game. But there was definitely a threat.
Jake, as we look at the stats here, obviously we had the eye test over the course of the game, but now that you have the raw stats in front of you, anything catching your eye here as whoa, that was more effective or less effective than you might have thought?
I really got to give a ton of credit to Saya in this game 3 in particular. I mean, 1 death, sometimes it's not a crazy stat line, but in this game against Drifter Vindicta that were just like running your team over for minutes on end, for him to be so solid and steady on the doorman, I think is a huge reason that Melee Creeps have enough stats to be able to actually turn this game around. Like him and John having such a hot start in the mid lane, I honestly think if just a couple of those waves don't go as decisively in their favor, that Melee Creeps may not have had the gas in the tank to bring this one back when FPS Lounge started to develop that lead. So I look at, this is the tag team. This is the Melee Creeps in a nutshell. Saya and John, the two of them together, having a crucially huge games here in this decisive game 3, as well as Ido reprising his role as the OG pocket specialist. Impressive result for Melee Creeps to win over a resurgent FPS Lounge with 2 subs in the week. They deserve this one, though.
All right, and of course, before we send things off, we got to talk about who the MVP was. This is a tough choice that could have went to multiple members on Melee Creeps. But Dan, our MVP of the night, once more, it's going to be John.
Yeah, and I think in John fashion, playing these carries, somebody that has to deliver, and that's kind of the role, is that you kind of almost have to be the MVP to a certain extent, just because John gets all of the priority, and if John is not doing his job, the team will likely lose, as he's so connected to the win conditions. And so we saw all these Venator games. I think the Venator Ivy combo was like a lot of fun to see. We saw that in this particular matchup, and John was like getting so far ahead in this game, and again, his team gave him the opportunity to do so, but John's going to get a lot more out of that than pretty much anybody else. So definitely a great performance from him.
Also, got to give shout outs to those supporting the product. Right as the game ended, we had a $150 donation to the prize pool from Here's Sin Sloth. I believe that is the proper pronunciation. $150 to the prize pool saying, quote, yay. Very much appreciated. Of course, all heading the player's way.
I mean, this series between these two teams is just rapidly becoming the El Clasico of North America. It feels like we always see these incredible matches between two teams with really different styles. Great to see John and Saya just have not lost a step. When the two of these guys are firing together on all cylinders, they are an impressive twosome to behold. And I mean, for Drifter and Vindicta, the strong start to this game, but it shows how potentially fragile a lead can be with these kind of early game aggressor heroes. Like, if you just let that one mid boss slip against you, you kind of get deeper into the game. Some, powerful defensive items come out. Feels like you just can't keep finding those kills the same way you're able to do in the first 15 minutes.
Now, this is kind of a broader question, because you talked about it a little bit earlier. I think it's kind of interesting. You think about Vindicta and Vindicta's design, and, in theory, you're a new player to the game thinking, okay, what's the, power fantasy of this character? How do you want to build it? And yet Vindicta seemingly has been in this zone here, Jake, for quite a while, where it's kind of like, okay, the hero's really good at, snowballing you early in the mid, but the late game carry Vindicta is less of a thing, especially at the pro level. Like, it's very difficult to get into that spot, game mechanics wise, where, maybe you go to super early Deadlock as possible, but, what do you think can be done to get Vindicta out of the early to mid zone, or is that just where she's intended to be?
I'm personally not the biggest fan of the snipe scaling or her late game gun damage. I mean, I think this is maybe only like, the reality is maybe it's fine for most players, because for a lot of players, right, when Vindicta gets really stacked up, they just feel like there's nothing they can do anymore, and she's just going to beam everyone down from the sky. But at this level of play, you can see how even with all those stacks, she's just never able to deal damage because she just dies. Like, she just gets jumped on and insta-killed by a team that is aware that, like, okay, Vindicta has a ton of stacks. We cannot allow her to live. But you start building the Phantom Strikes, jumping on top of her, killing her first in the fight. And then she just, like, you can have infinite DPS, but that's why we see the main carries right now being, Geist, Venator, these heroes that have a lot of damage and are also incredibly hard to bring down. Will absolutely fight back when you jump on top of them. Vindicta, if you get on top of her and, like, bring her down to the ground, she just evaporates. She, like, really can't stand toe-to-toe, can't get as much value off of lifesteal as a tanky or carry can. So I feel like you do need to kind of explode and use that gun damage to take objectives, end the game. But in this match, they're not able to do it. Not able to get those crucially mid bosses to be able to progress things. So Melee Creeps hold their nerve, hold the line, and get the dub.
Well, Dan, we got a little bit of housekeeping to settle before the end of the night. And first of which is to go back and take a look at night shift history, where Melee Creeps able to win 2 in a row right now. So a new streak has begun. But it's been anything but easy. Back-to-back 2-1 games here in NA.
Yeah, the streak starts anew. I'm curious. Obviously, they had a couple stand-ins for this one, and I wonder if when they go back to their full lineup, if they'll lose the streak at that point. Just because I just feel like that's just kind of how it goes, right?
Yeah, I mean, this Melee Creeps team, I feel sometimes they're kind of like powered by the whimsy, powered by the vibes. I feel like sometimes they do their best when the situation seems darkest. Like they look sick on the defensive spots in some of these games, and when it seems like things are stacked against them. So we'll have to see how things go in the future. I'd say it's a little early to call it a streak. 2 in a row is nice. It's a repeat. I think you got to get 3 for me to be ready to call it a streak. But it is still 2 big wins, and NA Deadlock has been just about as competitive as we've ever seen it. So hats off to Melee Creeps for getting it done.
Well, of course, now we get to part of the show that a lot of people look forward to. We put it up here, and instantly it's off on social media. Of course, that is the hero priority. And I mean, a lot of familiar things this week relative to last week. A few of the things have shot up here by comparison. Apollo shooting up, a little bit more Ivy that we're seeing here this week. Obviously, Drifter, Calico making appearances. But, the interesting thing to me, Dan, as I look at it here, it does seemingly feel like we're settling into more of a zone where it is like pretty top heavy. Like the heroes that were good were played in just about every game. And then there's a big gap between the haves and the have-nots when you look at how many heroes got 0 picks this week.
Yeah, this is definitely very new, I think, to see this. I don't think I've ever seen the priority look like this before, where it's so top heavy, and we actually have number 6 has nothing in it. That's actually kind of wild to see. So I'm curious, what that means for the future of some of these updates. I know that there will be some updates coming. I don't know how much the balance will be tweaked, but at the same time, I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing to have a lot of S tier picks that are in high contention, because that does also mean that the drafts, I think, can feasibly change quite significantly, making a lot more possibilities and opportunities available to the teams when they're going in the, to play in these big matches. So I don't know where I stand on this. I don't think that I'm not a fan of it. I'm not sure just yet.
Jake, one thing that's really interesting to me is I look at thinking about a hero that used to be picked all the time, even just a few weeks ago. But Rem died. His greed sickened no one today. 0 picks for Rem. And again, a pretty big change, even going back just a few weeks to where it felt like we were seeing Rem just about every other game.
Yeah, does surprise me, especially with like how much spirit damage is in the pool right now. But feel like people are kind of completely straying away from the more defensive supports. Even Viscus, yes, as like Cube is an insane defensive tool, but the builds we're seeing on Viscus are not that defensive. Like they're pretty much all damage. Maybe you buy like one of the healing items as to get your green investment spike, but for the most part, he's able to build pure damage as well. And it feels like the impact of that right now in this meta is everybody has to contribute damage, has to be able to fight for themselves in the brawl. Can see, take a look at the Prio last week, which was also top heavy, but a lot more spread like in the lower section. This week, a lot of agreement, it would seem, between NA and EU about the true top dogs of the meta. Doorman copping insane bans last week. This week, a little bit less bans, but I think he was able to win pretty consistently when he comes out. So always great to see Doorman. I feel like it's such a fun hero to watch in competitive play. But if he's too good, then he just gets permaban. So, it's a bit of a balancing act.
Before we go off this page, quick follow-up question to Jake before we go to Dan on the item priority. But as you look at the heroes that got no love at all this week, do you think there's a hero here that maybe teams are ignoring just because, scrim metas get kind of stuck in their ways? Like, is there any one hero you could pick out of the 0 category of saying, like, wait, no, actually, something should have been picked from here this week?
I don't know really. I feel like these are all heroes that, I guess it's like maybe Warden or Wraith, but even then it's tough competing in the carry role right now. And like Warden with his reliance, they kind of moved more of his power budget to the ulti, and I just think the Warden ulti is kind of crap. It's like too long cooldown. It's like when Warden is good, it feels like, at least recently, it's been when you just don't even care about the ulti. Sure, you get some value off it, that's great, but you're just playing for the hard gun carry, and that style was significantly nerfed. Like the ulti Warden, it's very exploitable. When ulti's on cooldown, you're not really a hero, and to invest souls into that is a little crazy. Same story for Wraith in a way. Like this hero needs to get ahead of the game with some really high eco, and if you don't, I don't think you can go toe to toe with some of these like late game tanks, especially in terms of survivability on Geist and Venator. Like that is at a premium right now with the level of aggression and nuking in the rest of the draft.
All right, Dan, final infographic of the night. Of course, it's our item priority. And overall, anything really surprising here? I think there's one thing for me that's kind of funny because the item got nerfed, but
right.
What jumps out to you?
Well, yeah, the Scourge one's interesting because Scourge is now is technically better if you have if it's on a character that has like high spirit, because it has like spirit scaling now, right? So, and typically before it was built on heroes that maybe, you know, very tanky, maybe are more invested into the greens or the oranges. So it's kind of interesting because, yeah, you know, if there's more supports in the game that can like slap this on their tanks, that is super effective. So very interesting to kind of see that. I agree. But other than that, I think you know, it's been interesting to see. I think I've been seeing it like a bit more like Mystic Shot. Rapid recharge, I'm actually not even sure why we're seeing like more of an instance of that. Is it just because we're seeing more Infernus and more Holiday? Because those are two people that really tend to buy it a lot.
Yeah.
Or what the reason is.
That's an item that like I wouldn't even think about on this list because it's just a more of a meta question. Like there's certain characters that just build this item. Like no matter what, no matter how good or bad this item is, Infernus is always going to be. Anyone with 2 charge abilities probably should always build this item. It feels like it's hard to get away from. I do think it's great to see Dispel Magic back on top. Debuff Remover, my beloved, returning to the #1 slot, even after the changes and the nerfs. It's just too good. Maybe also an expression, though, of the meta with Drifter and Infernus and Shiv being picked so highly. Everybody's going to want to Dispel Magic in games like that.
You know, the funniest thing to me in terms of the list is the fact that I think the one item that just like goes up and down off the whims of the players. I mean, arguably you could say it's meta dependent, but also just feels like players like go back and forth like, no, we really love this item. Actually, is that we have had weeks in the past few months where Counterspell has been nowhere near the top 10. And then we have weeks like this week where it's like, oh yeah, Counterspell, one of the most bought items in the game. And the actual functionality of Counterspell has stayed relatively consistent over time. So the fact that you see Counterspell do this yo-yo back and forth to me is pretty funny. But gentlemen, we have come to the end of the line. Time for some final thoughts before we sign off on what has been a very, very long day, but full of great games. Dan, first thoughts from you. Any final thoughts on the day?
If everybody who watches goes and gets someone who doesn't play Deadlock to play Deadlock, that'll be good. Go and do that.
Well, we'll have twice as many people playing and watching Deadlock. Yeah, no, it's just great to see, you know, the fan support. The game is, I feel like, in a really fun spot right now. Just hopping on, playing a lot of games recently. I'm a big fan of like the split objectives. This is kind of, I think, what people were asking for a long time in the competitive scene is more objectives. And I feel like we see more interesting types of fights in this meta where we see more low numbers engagements, more macro pressure, some objectives just not getting contested because the resources are spread too thin. And I think that's just been a lot of fun to watch the best teams in the world kind of go back and forth with that kind of creative freedom in the game right now.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us here tonight. Also, a bit of breaking news. People are saying, I've gotten multiple DMs saying that this was Ranger's last game with Melee Creep. So, hey, you know, if that's the case, Ranger, good to go out on win. It's a retirement angle, by the way, not a got kicked angle. If that's the case, salutations to Ranger on ending on a win. But all that being said, this has been Night Shift 46. We went the distance. We saw some amazing games, but guess what? We get to do it all again next week. We hope you'll join us for Night Shift 47, taking place same channel, same time, just 1 week from now.